Good evening, pretty shiny peoples.
Damn, Pixie, you couldn't wait until I'm finished putting on my makeup?
Say girls are always late. I was the first one here, thank you. Technically, I had to be, but I can still say that.
Hey, the woman made me late, damn it.
See, Adam blamed it on Eve, and thus the trend passes down.
All right, so we are doing a series of economic streams now. I guess it's gonna be fun stuff. And we're gonna harass Serb to keep participating because Serb knows more about this than I do, and I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. But yeah, apparently, if you see that title, that pixie duster bullshit title, it's gonna be an economy stream. Just so you know, like economics, some form of it. And Serb teased us last time we had one of these streams
Yeah.
about about how we weaponized cheese. So I have not seen any of the videos we're about to watch. I don't know if Serb has, but I know that Serb knows about this because he's the one that brought the topic. So
Yep. So, with that being said, as we can see, it's a guy in his garage, and he's a man's man who knows stuff about the economy, cheese, and taxes. Okay? And, you know, we can't judge a book by its cover, right? And so we're going to let this man speak his mind. And to be fair, I found other videos that discuss this, and the rest of them seem kind of pop culture-y, if that makes any sense. But this guy looks like he takes his stuff a little bit more serious. So, you know, let's
It-
show some support for the regular dude.
can I just add though? You can't judge a book by its cover, but you can judge a man by his DeWalt power drills.
Okay, so what's your judgment so far?
My judgment so far is he spent so much money on tools, but he didn't do better than DeWalt.
Oh, man. Maybe he's just cheap and he's fiscally responsible. We're talking about economy here, okay? And I'm noting Pixie's silence here, by the way. She's like, I don't want to talk about this man stuff. It's lame. All right.
oh no, I just I that's not
Please.
the part of the man stuff I talk about. We'll leave it there.
So, I
Okay.
because I see this is about the cheese caves. He's going to probably mention the cheese caves, which is like a chunk of my story. And I am actually really interested in how far back he goes in like the butterfly effect.
Okay. Now, the cool thing is, just to show that he's a man's man, he's responsible and he added timestamps or chapters throughout his thing, right? And he eventually decided to dress appropriately for the occasion. Okay. Let's see what he got to say.
I just went into the kitchen and looked in the cheese drawer, and I brought out a small sampling of cheese. I'll bet you have some sampling of cheese that looks this ostentatious. I'll bet you have more cheese than you need. I know that we now eat more cheese than we need. I think the reason we do so is because of America's tax and fiscal policies from the 70s and 80s. And I'm going to make that argument today on Weekly Dad News. Let's go.
Okay. First of all, props for the pink blazer. Real men wear pink. I hate pink personally, but I think it takes a certain level of embracing your masculinity to be able to rock pink with power drills
My
and shit like
least
that behind you.
pink was originally a boy's color, and although it's like not my favorite, it's probably my least favorite color. I still wear it sometimes because my skin tone.
You
Okay,
know,
that's fair.
there's a rule around me that if you get into a bar fight, fine, but you don't pick a fight with the guy in the corner wearing a pink T-shirt.
Why is that?
because he is clearly manly enough to kick anyone's ass. It's not that he's gay. It's that he does not care what you think at all.
At all, right?
Look, I'm just glad it's actually pink and not that what's that weird pink color that all the dudes were wearing like for like 2 years, like salmon or something, and it was hideous.
Well, I will say I appreciate the fact that he's taking this seriously based on, and he doesn't care. The fact that he is a man's man and he doesn't care, he's rocking that pink blazer, that to me paints the pictures that he's serious. Do not screenshot this man's face like that.
At least it's Barbie pink and not like Pepto Bismol pink. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Hot pink has taken it too far, bro.
Go.
I feel motivated.
So today's episode is based on a conversation that you and I were having, Dad, about how taxes are different for you now. And I want to walk through a weird story about taxes and how taxes are spent. And then I have a proposal on why you are looking at taxes differently now than you were before. So to start this off, this is the cheese that I had in my kitchen drawer. There's more cheese in there. I have provolone, I have a Parmesan, there's a cotija, part skim mozzarella. Here's sticks, cheese sticks. I'm not eating these. I don't know why I have those. More Parmesan, and then some like deli meat, American cheese kind of stuff. This one though, this one's interesting. This is Italian 4-cheese blend. So it has part skim mozzarella, smoke flavored provolone, Romano, Parmesan, Fontino, and Asiago. So it has a whole bunch of different cheeses all in one bag. Why? Why do I have so much cheese? I think I know why. And let's talk about the 1970s. So we had an oil crisis in the 1970s where fuel was extraordinarily expensive. And a side effect of that oil crisis was the cost of dairy goods went all over the place. They weren't able to supply enough. They weren't able to move them. When they did, it was too expensive. So our dairy market got discombobulated.
You guys want to finish this segment and then comment?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
They looked at it and said, we need to help the dairy industry stabilize through this fuel and oil crisis. So Carter put together, Jimmy Carter, the president at the time, he had new subsidies. So these are
Best president, by the way.
a way that the government's going to spend money. He goes, we have a way to spend money to help stabilize this industry. They chose the dairy industry to do so. Part of that is that the relationship that people have with their milkman is like that of the postman. People get fresh milk all the time in the 1970s. And in the 60s and 50s, it's the classic, the milkman's coming by, puts your milk jugs, takes the empties. And so because it's such this iconic thing and very visible to everybody, they went, we need to fix this. We need to fix the milk industry, the dairy industry. And what they did is they spent $2 billion over 4 years, so about $500 million a year, which is a huge sum back then. It's a huge sum now. I mean, that would be great. There's many industries you can help a lot with $2 billion. So production booms. It works really, really well. The dairy industry is doing so well because the government has basically said, any excess you make, we will buy that excess, and we're going to stabilize other parts and make it work.
Hold up. Wait a minute. So, sir, based on what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
He's saying that the federal government is interfering with the market.
Yeah, he didn't go far back enough though.
Okay.
He only
please explain.
got like the tail end of a long series of events where the government kept on trying to increase the dairy.
Oh boy. It was that bad, huh?
Yeah, it literally starts in like the 1930s, in 1933, 1937, 1949, 1977, which is what he's talking about, and then finally in the 1980s. when it becomes dangerous.
Oh boy. All right, let's finish out this segment and we can give our comments.
So we have this milk that we're buying from dairy farmers that they can't sell or is excess. So they're producing as much as they possibly can, just rip roaring, setting it up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Milk, 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 milk. You can't store milk for very long. You can store cheese for a very long time. Most cheeses you need to ripen. So the excess dairy that the government's buying in the early 80s is being turned into cheese.
All right. In terms of his presentation, his his breakdown of the history, do you guys smell some pixie dust or do you smell some bullshit?
Both.
I ca-
Pixie dust. Oh, go ahead.
I can't weigh in.
Oh,
Like
Pixie dust.
I am. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just too excited. Pixie dust in that he started 3/4 way down the trail and followed it. Right, so he's not wrong in spirit. He's just wrong in the details.
Okay, I was gonna say I can't weigh in because I'm not familiar with the story enough to, and I feel like I don't have like I feel like what Serb says is true. Like I feel like I'm missing pieces of the puzzle somewhere.
Okay, so that's fair. What about the government's direct interference within the market? Because I'm sure you'll find a lot of well, some people, not a lot, some people who would come and say, let the market figure it out itself, right? Evolution, made the strong survive. Why should the government, interfere with the market in such a way?
Well, that depends on what kind of market you have, right? I is we don't actually have a laissez-faire market system, which is no intervention at all. Almost all applications of capitalism are regulated in one way or another, whether it's for stabilizing like production and demand and prices, whether it's um, in, like anti-monopoly laws. Like there's always going to be some sort of interference, I think.
Okay. So do you think is there some kind of metric that we have that we can use as a measure and to be like, okay, how much interference should the government sh- how much interference in the market should should the government engage in order to keep it stable? Because if it's a situation where it's the government's job to keep the market stable, then is it really a free market at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's a free market. Free market just means that the government or the head of state is not setting prices.
Interesting, but wouldn't interference affect the pricing or even the existence of a product?
Yeah, but they're not setting the price between two parties exchanging money for the product. You are allowed to agree upon a price with
Hmm.
someone else, and it's up to you guys what that price is.
Okay, so if Americans, take for example, if Americans decide, hey, we don't want to buy iPhones anymore, and Apple being the trillion-dollar company, it's going to crash, right? Would it be okay if the government somehow intervenes, whether it's giving them money for advertisement or convincing the public, kind of like what they did with SUVs, right? To get people to hypnotize the country, in my opinion, at least, to buy SUVs, should the government be able to interfere in the market in that way? Because I think part of the reason, this is an assumption on my part, that Americans love cheese so damn much is because it's been brainwashed into loving cheese because it serves a particular purpose, for at least keeping the market stable or a section of the market stable.
I would say that uh, as far as the right and wrong thing goes, right? This entirely depends on your goal,
Mhm.
right? I'm an American, American number one, love America. If there was another company that was American that could easily step into Apple's shoes and make their version of the iPhone, it wouldn't be the iPhone, but the thing to replace it.
Mhm.
I say yes, let Apple fall to the ground like the Twin Towers. We don't fucking need them anymore. But if the option is let Apple fall and let or Huawei move into the country, I say fuck that. You save Apple, keep Huawei the fuck out, or what? However you pronounce the company's name, just keep them out.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I agree too. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, it's not a matter of, well, do we just let the market correct itself? Because sometimes what happens is the market corrects itself right into your country not existing anymore.
Okay. So instead of what the guy explains, Pixie, would you say that the government interference? Would you say that's pixie dust or bullshit? You got to give me some.
Yeah.
If you're talking, I can't hear you.
I said that part would definitely have to be pixie dust, right? Like, there's never a time where the government's not going to interfere. So if he's like, this is how the government interfered, I'm like, yeah, probably. Or at least that's part of it.
Yeah, the government interferes by simply having money.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, that's fair. All right, let's see what else he got to say. Ooh, and look at all of that fine cheese. I know. Is the location of all of this cheese public?
I do believe all. I guess we don't know for sure, right? There are a lot of the cheese bunkers where people know where they are. They're not all. It's not all in one place. There's like a handful of places sort of strung out.
Okay, because
So
I'm
we
just
have
saying.
a handful of places. So we have more cheese vaults than US mints. That's interesting.
Yes, yes, we have more cheese balls. I keep on telling people, right? We have more pounds of strategic cheese than we do in pounds of TNT of nuclear weapons.
Or
Yeah,
don't we
that's
only
great.
have like 2 mints in the US?
I
Ex-
don't think so. I thought we had more. We could have dropped down to 2.
No,
It's been a
wait.
long time since I looked.
I
You
think I've
guys need
only
to
visited
explain to
2.
the
Maybe
audience
Yeah,
3 or 4.
yeah. If
what
you
are
look at your dollar
mints.
bills, there'll be those letters next to the numbers
No,
in each one of those.
there's only 2 that make coins. That's
Oh,
right.
okay.
So for the dummies, including myself, who don't know what a mint is outside of our mint tea, right? Can you guys kind of give a
It's where money is printed.
Yeah, it's the only legal place. It's the only place that can legally create official currency.
Yeah. And we do have more than 2, but I think there's only 2, or there used to only be 2. There could be more than 2 now. There used to only be 2 that did coins as well as bills. And one of them is in Denver.
really now? Okay. Well,
Mhm.
if the apocalypse come about very, very soon, knowing the location of one of those cheese caves, we can gang up together, get our guns, and see if we can take the spot. We can sell cheese and become the new billionaires.
The cheese warlords.
Yes. It would be awesome if someone. Okay, I'm not going to say anything else. I got ideas. Okay, let's move on. The cheese wars.
Processed into cheese and being stored in limestone caves beneath Springfield, Missouri. And there are these giant underground limestone caves where the temperature is 36 degrees, the humidity is controlled, and we're storing tons and tons and tons of cheese down there. We end up with so much cheese, over 15,000 tons of cheese, so 30 million pounds of cheese in this hole in the ground in Springfield, Missouri. What do we do with that much cheese? that we have bought with the taxpayer's dollar and put into a cave to help the dairy industry.
Sir, you're president. Explain yourself.
Explain myself. Well,
Yeah.
currently, it doesn't really cost us anything, and we don't do anything with it because we don't have to buy any more milk. At least the government doesn't. And all of the cheese in the cheese caves are owned. The shares of them have been bought by companies like Kraft, Pizza Hut, a bunch of different places own that cheese, and they pay the government to keep it.
So why would those companies buy all of that cheese when I'm assuming they're making a bunch of different cheese products and selling anyways?
Yeah, that cheese is they bought it at like fractions of a penny on the dollar of what the value would be if they just bought cheese on the market.
Okay.
They
But
use the cheese. They use it.
oh,
And
they use it.
they also replace it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know. At least, well, now we have an idea as to why, all of those tax dollars are being spent because, people would have to bring this forward to Trump, as waste and have Elon Musk's Doge look into everything,
Yeah.
you know?
But that only started places only started buying the cheese and paying the government to take care of the cheese in the late 90s.
Oh, okay.
Right, going all the way back since then to like the 1940s when the caves first started being opened. It was us paying for it the whole time.
Wow. So we still haven't made that money back yet.
Not even close.
Oh boy. Let's continue.
So at this point, Reagan's in office. It's 81-ish. And he goes, you know what? I don't want to have this cheese sitting there maybe going bad because it has been there, some of it for years. Let's start getting rid of it. Let's start giving it away to people that need it. And so they put together a program called the Temporary...
Pause. He was nowhere near that fucking nice. Not at all. He never thought once about the poor people or the people or even rich people that pay taxes to make the cheese. He had a news conference where they asked the reporters and some other people what they thought about the cheese, and their first idea that they presented to them was we could take all the cheese and throw it in the ocean so we wouldn't have to pay to refrigerate it anymore. And absolutely everyone thought that was the stupidest thing they ever heard. They told him to give us the cheese, and then he acquiesced to giving us the cheese.
Wow.
Yeah, never, ever, ever sugarcoat for a politician.
Wow.
The thing is, it would cost money to give us the cheese. Right? He
As a
just
matter
wanted
of
to
fact,
dump it in the ocean.
that just makes me want to say bullshit. Like, I don't even want to say pixie dust now. That's like being like, and Andrew Jackson gave the Indians new home. No, motherfucker, that is not what happened. We'll fight now.
Okay, I'm switching your shit to bullshit now.
Yeah, that was a nice solid chunk of bullshit. He got the outcome correct, but all the information before that was totally off.
Emergency Food Assistance Program. And what they did is they took that cheese and they gave it to the elderly, they gave it to the needy, they gave it to people and families and food banks who needed additional assistance. So we had used it to solve two problems now. One, we stabilized the dairy industry, and two, we have this food that's going to families that need it. So in the early 80s, there's this split in perception of the cheese. If you were a parent in that time, and there's a miner who has a quote on this and talked about receiving the cheese, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like you can't do it. It becomes this kind of mark of shame. If you're a kid during this time, you go, yeah, cheese. So you have these two totally different takes on getting that government cheese. Once we start handing out all that cheese, and this is important, the two views are important. Once we start handing out all of this cheese and just giving it away to everybody, here's more cheese, everybody, yay. Once we start doing that and giving all this cheese away, we don't quite get through all of it. So okay, how can we get more of this cheese in more consumer goods?
They had that much cheese?
What he's leaving out, they didn't just have that much cheese. They weren't giving out as much as they were bringing in. The amount that we had kept growing.
What?
Right? Republicans didn't want to give cheese to everybody. Right? They were convinced to give it to poor people and elderly people. And they couldn't hand out enough cheese.
Dude, that is insane. Wow, okay.
Goods. So they put together the U.S. Department of Agriculture through the Dairy Promotion and Research Board, which is part of them. They go, here, what do we do with this dairy? They create a company called Dairy Management Incorporated, and its whole goal is to make you eat more cheese.
So I was kind of right earlier. Right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And let me ask you a question. What is the definition of a psyop to you?
I don't know, like a government conspiracy to force the population into doing something that they otherwise wouldn't do.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be aggressive, right? It could be simple.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that basically propaganda, right? Could be a psyop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what Dairy Management Incorporation does?
You're kidding me.
Nothing but advertisements and campaigns, and like they used to make nutritional fact posters that would get people to want to eat cheese. It's just a propaganda business. It does nothing but propaganda.
Hey guys, I am going to have to step away for just a moment and be right back. Take notes for me, Batman.
Yeah, they literally they use there's memos, internal memos that you can get with the Freedom of Information Act. They're out there where they're doing the exact same things Goebbels did for the Nazis. Like they're crafting narratives about cheese, right? They're making campaigns, advertisements to play during children's cartoons that tell kids that their bodies will literally fall apart if they don't eat enough dairy.
What?
I'm not joking. You could probably Google those commercials on YouTube. Like they're still out there.
Dude, after this video, we should totally Google government cheese commercials.
Yeah.
Because that shit sounds interesting as hell, dude.
Well, I think I mentioned this on the last thing. You remember the Got Milk ad campaign, right?
Yes. I remember that very vividly.
Do you remember how those commercials and those posters and everything else that they didn't have a single company name on it?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. That's because it was created by Dairy Management Incorporated.
What? Please don't tell. Is that part of the reason why, like, breakfast cereal is like
part of a healthy, balanced diet?
Yeah, when it's fucking not healthy.
Not healthy at all. Yeah.
Bro.
Everything. People used to eat oatmeal. Now we eat cereal with milk.
With milk. Holy shit, bro. The psyop is real. Yo, sir, I'm just gonna let you know that, I'm gonna miss you very much. I will pray for your family.
It gets so much bigger than this. Reagan was the one that realized what you could do with this. This is the mild beginning part that he's touching on here.
Oh boy. All right, let's see where this goes.
That's it. And they have some great successes. They're the reason we have stuffed crust pizza. They are the reason we had the quesalupa. They are behind the Got Milk campaign where everybody had a little milk Hitler mustache, right? So they get more cheese and more things, and we're eating more cheese and we're having more cheese, and we've got all these different cheeses. The 4-cheese blend,
Can we pause this real
4-cheese
quick?
pizza.
Pause real quick. He left out one major thing. I'm sure everyone knows as a kid how Domino's almost disappeared, but then it never really seemed to go away.
Oh, yeah.
That's because the Dairy Management Incorporated gave them billions of dollars of cheese
What?
so they could stay in business.
Okay, bro. Okay, they get some cool points for save. Even though Domino's pizza kind of tastes like cardboard, there are some people that like the taste of cardboard, and we like, you know, um, competition in the pizza market. So yay to them for saving Domino's.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that loves pizza, and especially those people that love their tacos and their burritos, right? You guys should be thanking the U.S. government, specifically the Department of Dairy, for your cheese that you enjoy every day. I'm just saying. Eat shit. Sometimes when I make scrambled eggs, I put some cheese on that.
That's the thing. It's not
Your bacon, egg, and
really.
cheese sandwiches.
So
What are you saying, sir?
this is how, just on a sniff test, you could tell that it's sinister. Because Dairy Management Incorporated isn't a department of the government.
Wait a second. It's not a department of the government.
Right? Reagan didn't want to be known as someone who would create something like that. He's the physical, he's the responsible, he's the adult in the room. What they Dairy Management Incorporated is a corporation that is a nonprofit that has, so it could be legally distinct from the government. But the government
Oh.
passed laws forcing dairy farmers to pay them fees, to pay Dairy Management Incorporated fees. Every dairy farmer has to pay DMI money to exist. Otherwise, they're
So
not legally allowed to exist.
so hold on a second. So the government goes in and says, "Hey, we're going to save the dairy industry, the dairy farmers, right?" Now, they save them by buying up all of their milk and turning it into cheese, right? Now, Reagan says, "Hold up. We can't be just buying shit and they're not, giving back into the system, right? So, let's create a nonprofit that focuses on advertising the sale of dairy products and managing, essentially, indirectly, the dairy product market, and to subsidize it, it's not directly from the government, right? Because it looked like a legitimate government program if it's subsidized by the government. We force farmers to pay that company. Dude, imagine if the government says, "Hey, every single business out there that uses taxis has to buy a GM vehicle."
See, it's creepy. It's a little creepier than that, right? Because Reagan isn't the one that created DMI. Reagan did the thing that he talked about before DMI, which was he set the research in place where they were researching what you could do to fix the
Hmm.
situation,
Hmm.
right? Because Reagan, when he came into office, he had a Doge moment where he was going through everything. That's how he found out we were spending all this money on cheese and was freaking out, right?
But
And then just a little bit later, after he starts handing cheese out to everyone, he suddenly becomes mentally ill, right? He gets like Alzheimer's and forgets who he is. And then, he goes away. And then we get Clinton, who's a part of a new movement. Right? He's not the old Democrats. He's like a new way Democrat
interesting.
who is fiscally responsible. And then he shuts down the program, the research program that Reagan started, and then starts DMI.
What? So, is it okay? Let's go back to the video. My brain is going now.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much of the story because
Yeah,
there's so much
yeah.
more. So much more.
This Italian blend, these are ways to get rid of extra milk. So kids that are born in the 80s and raised in the 80s are exposed to all of these advertisements and all of this stuff. The weird thing is the milk consumption doesn't increase, but cheese consumption does, to the point where we're now eating more cheese than we ever have before and less dairy. We were eating about 21 pounds of cheese per person per year in 1980. Now, we eat over 40 pounds of cheese per person per year. We eat more than...
Dude, what?
Yeah.
No wonder we have a fucking obesity problem.
There's something I really want to say, but it would give my whole spiel away.
Okay.
double the amount of cheese that we consume. And all that cheese, just cheese. At the same time, milk consumption goes way down. So now milk is being used more to produce milk products, yogurts, cheeses. There's even highly processed milk now where they take the lactose out of it so that people that are lactose intolerant can have milk. So all of this happens. And this group that does it, the Dairy Management Incorporated. So Dairy Management Incorporated was developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And it's there, and it's like a reverse lobby, right? And we have all kinds of these now. There's groups that want you to eat more beef, and there's groups that want you to drink more water, and orange juice producers, right? So there's these groups that push for a specific sector or segment and try and get you to consume more, because it doesn't really matter to the actual producers, the farmers that are making it, as much as it does to the people that are buying it from them and then selling it to you as a reprocess. So think of that cultural effect as kind of a reverse lobbying effect, where instead of a lobbying group for, say, the National Realtors Association lobbying the government and saying, hey, government, we want these laws to be this way, it's a government-created entity that's actually lobbying you to consume more of this thing because the government has a kind of a thumb on that part of the scale, the industry. So think about how this story makes you feel.
That's a good point.
Right? So this is weird, right? Like, I get the bailout, that's cool. And I get giving the cheese away, that's also cool. But then it goes a little bit further and goes, hey, everybody eat more cheese. And we do. There's a cultural shift in the amount of cheese we eat, where we double the amount of cheese we eat. That's crazy. A support policy for a specific sector of the economy turned into a social behavior that affects everybody in the United States. So this is how tax policy kind of works. They talk about Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid being the third rail of tax policy because you're not supposed to touch it. We have a budget of about $6 trillion a year, and we take in about $4.4 trillion a year from taxes. Those taxes come from income tax. So,
all right, sorry, I had to feed the dogs and finish getting dinner ready. Don't worry, everybody, I swallow first. Okay, so what did I miss?
Tiny hints of something, like a sinister conspiracy to control the world. So.
With cheese. Yeah. Yeah. We can go back a little bit. Hold on. Because this is like super important. My mind is blown. My mind is blown, but I'm partly terrified, but I'm partly grateful because I really love cheese. But I'm also concerned because, like, I don't know if I love cheese of my own volition or it's because of a government psyop that's forcing me to love cheese so I can buy more cheese.
No, see, I know that I love cheese because I don't love all cheeses. Some I really like, and some I'm like, I did not love that.
I mean, you need to have a variety, but hear this man out, right? Hear him out.
The industry. So think about how this story makes you feel, right? So this is weird, right? Like I get the bailout. That's cool. And we have all kinds of these now. There's groups that want you to eat more beef, and there's groups that want you to, there's even highly processed milk now where they take the lactose out of it so that people that are lactose intolerant can have milk.
Oh yeah, this is
less
the
dairy.
consumption part.
We were eating about 21 pounds of cheese per person per year in 1980. Now we eat over 40 pounds of cheese per person per year. We've more than doubled the amount of cheese that we consume. And all that cheese, just cheese. At the same time, milk consumption goes way down. So now milk is being used more to produce milk products, yogurts, cheeses. There's even highly processed milk now where they take the lactose out of it so that people that are lactose intolerant can have milk. So all of this happens. And this group that does it, the Dairy Management Incorporated. So Dairy Management Incorporated was developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And it's there, and it's like a reverse lobby, right? And we have all kinds of these now. There's groups that want you to eat more beef, and there's groups that want you to drink more water, and orange juice producers, right? So there's these groups that push for a specific sector or segment and try and get you to consume more, because it doesn't really matter to the actual producers, the farmers that are making it, as much as it does to the people that are buying it from them and then selling it to you as a reprocess. So think of that cultural effect as kind of a reverse lobbying effect, where instead of a lobbying group for, say, the National Realtors Association lobbying the government and saying, hey, government, we want these laws to be this way, it's a government-created entity that's actually lobbying you to consume more of this thing because the government has a kind of a thumb on that part of the scale, the industry. So think about how this story makes you feel, right? So this is weird, right? Like I get the bailout, that's cool. And I get giving the cheese away, that's also cool. But then it goes a little bit further and goes, hey, everybody eat more cheese. And we do. There's a cultural shift in the amount of cheese we eat, where we double the amount of cheese we eat. That's crazy.
Okay. Do you guys smell pixie dust or bullshit based on not even what he's saying, right? Just based on what we are learning so far in terms of what the government has done to get us to this point. Because cheese consumption in the US, it's, yeah, I believe him 100 million %. The obesity rates is up there because of cheese consumption. The eating breakfast cereal, which is not freaking healthy, right, is advertised as being good for you and even
That's
healthy.
okay. That goes back to Kellogg and these old ideas, cereal itself, especially brand cereal and Kellogg, goes back to Mr. Kellogg. And that actually goes back to the days when we had like snake oil salesmen everywhere. And Mr. Kellogg himself had this place, I guess it was like a wellness clinic or something. People would go there to like feel better or to get healthy or to, just that kind of thing, treat whatever was going on with them. Some places were a lot worse than others, but yeah, cereal was one of the things that he pushed. His brand cereal was one of the things that he pushed really, really hard there, and then it kind of went out from there. I would consider that separate from the cheese thing, though. That has a whole different weird origin story.
Now, see, I wouldn't, because he pushed bland cereal, right? There's no sugar cereal, as a way to help young boys manage their sexual frustration.
That's true. Well, among other things, he
Well,
had like a whole cult thing going on.
yeah, what we're talking about is when it starts to become advertised as part of a healthy breakfast.
Yeah, along with milk, because I remember seeing Got Milk commercials and cereal commercials, right, focused on, for example, always drinking milk with your cereal. Like
Right,
it's
but what I'm
impossible
saying
to
is
think of. it's
what I'm saying is, would it not be a byproduct, right? Because okay, cereal. What I'm saying is, cereal got popular in a different way. Now, milk is very often used with cereal, so then it would later be marketed together in a lot of ads, particularly if you're pushing milk. But is that because they wanted to push cereal, or because cereal was already a popular thing that went with milk? Is what I'm asking.
that's interesting because if the dairy industry, I wouldn't even say die, if it's not as popular, then people wouldn't eat as much cereal because you can't imagine eating cereal without milk. And I mean dairy milk, not that almond milk bullshit and all that other stuff. Real milk.
Well, cereal in general, right, starts being pushed because the government wants people to eat more grains because we produce more grains. So they can reduce their egg consumption and their meat consumption.
Mm,
So it would
Right.
be similar.
Right.
Okay.
But
mm.
cereal and milk is pushed as a breakfast, specifically a healthy breakfast, because the government's trying to get you to drink more milk.
Okay. Well, and it's killing two birds with one stone, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pixie, government conspiracy. They're pixie dust, or do you smell bullshit?
The government's always got its hands in everything. Always, always, always. I don't trust any of them. So I have to lean towards pixie dust.
Okay. All right, sir. I understand that this is a little bit more nuanced for you, but just imagine this in a different industry, right? Let's say Tesla, right? I've seen some really, really, really cool Chinese smart cars and like Korean cars, and those are not nearly as pushed as much as Teslas, right?
Because fuck the Chinese Communist Party, that's why.
Okay, I'm
Also,
just
for as cheap as their car is, they keep breaking down everywhere. Anyway, continue.
okay, Fixie. So, with that in mind, right? Wouldn't it be better to have more competition in the market that could result in the best price possible for the consumers and push more innovation? Whereas instead of having not necessarily the government propping up Tesla, but by nature of not allowing more competition, right? They're indirectly propping up Tesla, kind of like with the cereals thing, right?
Well, that you
Cereal
can't.
thing.
My thing is you can't blame that one on the government, and here's why. Number one, they do have U.S. competitors. The problem is the U.S. competitors of Tesla offer less for more money. Those competitors are things like Rivian and Lucid. Rivian's doing better than Lucid is, but they both cost more than like a Model 3 Tesla, and they don't have all the tech amenities that a Tesla has. Second, for a long time, if not still, Elon open sourced all of his Tesla patents and battery technology and all of that. The government incentivized Ford and Honda, all the American car companies were incentivized by the government to make an electric car competitor, and each one of them barely did it. A couple of them teamed up to barely pull off a limited production of one. On top of that, it was Ford who was marched out on stage and called the leader in EV in the American market, right? So, and they were like congratulated and everything. So I would argue that they like any lack of competition against Tesla would not. I mean, it's not like they haven't tried.
Well, I would say for the purposes of the conversation, I'm just more so referring to the cost, right? Like I don't think either of any of those companies are like fully invested in any real way, except for the electric companies. I'm saying like companies that have as much capital available to them to invest in research and development towards EVs, right? That would push for affordable EVs, right? Because let's be honest, pretty much all EVs, right, and even hybrids are essentially luxury vehicles, right? And even
Yeah.
though they're not advertised as such, they have the features and price tags which would be associated with one, and people treat them as luxury cars. Were you saying, sir?
I said, yeah, I mean, kind of. Just sort of the one-on-one economics thing about competition and innovation, right?
Mm,
R&D is like the most expensive thing you could possibly do,
yeah.
and we're at a stage here where technology takes more and more to improve, right? So if you're the competition between companies isn't really a value proposition of innovation. It's a competition of who they can make their workers be more poor.
Repeat that again for the audience.
It's a competition of who can make their workers poorer,
Okay, that's fair.
right? And that's generally speaking, that's not a war you want to win. That's why we don't lot of. That's why we haven't let a lot of foreign electric cars into the country.
Interesting. So, what if what if the government says, okay, whatever cars that are sold within from, let's say, Chinese or Korean company, right? Like whatever cars that are sold in the U.S. need to be produced in the U.S. Like, what if that was a part of the the regulation? Because I'm assuming if they allow Chinese cars in the market or any other, you know, company in the market to produce as much as Tesla, right, to compete at least price wise, right, then I'm assuming there would be some limitations to that.
Well, yeah. Well, we've kind of settled in at sort of a halfway point, right? We can't, and this has to do with this. This goes into the strategy of what we do with milk. Right? So I don't want to give my whole story away, but we've settled on our vehicles being made in Mexico, the U.S., and Canada.
Okay.
Right? Different parts are made in different places and assembled in different areas, and then they're done.
Yeah.
Right. And we've done that because with our other trade policies, Canada and Mexico are the countries we can bully the most to give us what we want. So we allow them to be part of the car industry that we have.
Okay. So, do you see this as bullshit, or is there some pixie dust in there?
What he's saying or what we're talking about, because we're kind of
Up,
off.
up to this point.
Uh, he's got he's got the rated G version of the story. Right.
Okay.
He went through and he probably heard a funny video about the cheese caves or something and got sort of the service details and then made a video about taxes. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But I could tell just from how he's acting and what he's talking about, he never stopped and asked himself, "Hey, why did the strategy change from giving out cheese to government psyop?"
Yeah. Maybe he actually answers that question in the next couple segments. Because he's questioning it now, it seems. He's asking the question like, okay, but why? Right? So, maybe he goes into it, but you got to give me your answer.
I was saying, I don't want to say bullshit, right? I'm just saying he's got the details to bring together the G-rated version of the story.
Okay. Do you think it's good that we get the G-rated version at least starting out?
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice contrast when I come along and say it's it's part of the military-industrial complex.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna give you a pixie dust then. You sound delighted about that. All right.
a support policy for a specific sector of the economy turned into a social behavior that affects everybody in the United States. So this is how tax policy kind of works. They talk about Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid being the third rail of tax policy because you're not supposed to touch it. We have a budget of about $6 trillion a year, and we take in about $4.4 trillion a year from taxes. Those taxes come from income tax, Social Security tax, payroll taxes, corporate taxes, excise duties, import tariffs. We have all these different ways we can generate a little bit of money. But as we do those, we're picking winners and losers in the economy. And the way that we pay those taxes is very different. It's very different when somebody passes and you have to pay your inheritance tax, or if somebody gives you money to help buy a house and you pay a gift tax, or if you just have a normal W-2 job. And Dad, I think that's where you're seeing something different. Because if you think about it, when you are working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or whatever your job structure is, you're 40 hours a week, you're 30 hours a week, you're 70 hours a week, and you're on payroll, you know what your paycheck's going to be post all of your deductions. You have cool taxes come out, insurance comes out, Social Security comes out, anything else I have in there that I bought, dental comes out. So all those things are done, and you know what's coming in, what the budget is. And that's a normal W-2 job. That's what most people have, and that's how most people get paid. But we're in this space now where more and more people are taking on side gigs, things that will give them what's called 1099 income, which means they haven't paid taxes on it yet. And they have to figure out how to pay those taxes. There's also a point in life when you start getting Social Security disbursements or pension disbursements. And when you get those and they're shifting and your investment accounts go, you're 65, take this money, your taxes.
Just because of what I do, I have to make a correction.
Boy,
A
here we go.
1099 form can be issued for additional income that you have not yet paid taxes on. However, it can also be issued for a withdrawal on which you are having taxes withheld simply because of the type of account it's coming from. So it's not always what he's saying, just saying.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
This change. And there's not one cohesive thing that says, hey, here's what all this has to do and here's what you're going to pay this year. It depends on what your income is, and it changes each year. And that's what you're hitting into. This is the same thing as people who get a bonus at work. They go, yay, I got a $1,000 bonus. Then they get the check and it's taxed at a super high rate. And it's taxed at a high rate because the government looks at that bonus as a possible shift into another bracket. So they want to tax it to make sure that at the end of the year, correct taxes have been paid. So that perceptual split is, I think, part of why people look at the stuff like the cheese in the caves and go, hey, why am I paying for that? Why am I spending money on that? But the farmers who get the assistance go, thank God for that. It stabilized its entire portion. The people that got the cheese to eat, the elderly and the people at the food banks, that closed the gap between a tighter belt loop and making it through the week. I got to eat as well as my kids. Being on different sides of it and thinking about it in different ways means that as we decide and figure out tax policy, we're trying to balance the needs of everybody in the economy against each other, but not in a combat way, in a supportive way. We're going, cool, as an economy, what are the things that we want to happen? How do we want those to behave?
So the government decides that, at least for once in U.S. history, that is going to take a holistic approach in terms of the economy in relation to taxation, right? And maintaining the existence of a important industry. Am I getting this right?
I mean, that's how he's explaining it. Oh man, it's so hard.
Okay.
I want to say that there are people in the government and in Congress that look at it holistically, and there probably always has been people that look at it holistically. But that's not really how it works. What happens is, one senator from one state has an industry big in his state, and he doesn't want his state to lose all that wealth, so he he tries to get this tax for this thing for his state passed federally. Right. Okay, maybe that happens. If it happens, maybe it causes a problem somewhere else. And then they have to make a law to regulate this. And then that might cause an issue somewhere else where they have to make another tax. And then their whole job is more or less shifting policies and taxes around. But when you do it enough on the small enough scale where you're doing one policy and one tax at a time over the period of decades, it kind of looks like it's being done holistically, but it's not. They're just reacting.
Okay, so I'm gonna let it play for the next 2
Is this
segments.
like a? Is
Huh?
this like a more? How would I say that?
This is
A
a
more
schoolhouse rock.
spontaneous version of like syntaxes, kind of like the syntax game.
Well, I mean, kind of. You're referring to how the fact that the syntax has to always go up because people stop doing the sin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of like that, where you have to keep on adjusting it because, nothing's in a vacuum. You make an adjustment here, 10 things change, so then you have to go around adjusting everything.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And okay.
And so you've got people like, again, this guy who pays no taxes because that's a parsonage. And then you've got the people who are, making $70,000, $80,000 a year, and they're paying 20 to 30% of their income on taxes, and maybe more if they're in New York or California and have to pay state and local taxes, because there's this huge stack of taxes that we pay, including sales tax. And as we pay all these, we're funding all this stuff, but there's a disconnect between what we're buying with our dollar and what we perceive the value to be. You don't think about it much when you're driving down the roads, but when you're staring at that number as the gas tank fills, you know exactly how much of that portion is in taxes because it tells you on the thing. This includes this much for a state and highway rehabilitation traffic. That cost me an extra $2 today. And then we drive on the road and don't think about what we bought. This is also true with hospitals and police. There's all these things. I mean, one of the ones I think about the most is schools. I drive by them all the time, and I'm fully aware that I don't have kids, and I'm paying for schools, but I should be. Because as a group, we want our kids to be smarter. I want your kids to be smarter. Well,
That's debatable depending on certain groups of people with certain political beliefs.
Yeah,
Dad,
I would
your
say
kids
that the right way
doing
to look
fine.
at it is that we want other people's kids to be smarter. How you should look at it if you don't have kids is, I am paying to educate kids so when they turn 18, they don't break into my garage and steal my truck.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Well, also, you really are funding the next generation of everything, right? Medical researchers, everything.
Yeah, but some people don't care about the next generation.
Yeah. But a lot of people just goes, yeah, let people struggle to become a doctor, right? It's too far removed for them, but they understand oh yeah, poor people steal my shit.
Mhm.
Sadly, that's true. Like that. But why? I know, but when you put it that way, it just reminds me that I hate people.
Okay.
Look what you did, bro.
But I want people's kids to be smarter. I want people to be educated. I want people to be aware. And so as we come into tax day, which, this is going up on tax day. As we come into tax day and we start thinking about it, we should pay attention to this. We should start going, cool, what are we getting? And then when we don't like the thing, we should start making noise about it. I don't like how much money we're spending on all of the drone operations in places we're not at war with. I don't like how much money we spend to give tax breaks to Elon Musk. So as we start looking at all these different ways that our money is being spent, the only way we can get it to change is if people know that we don't like it. And so the way that you do that is you reach out to your senators and your House representatives and say, hey, I like this and I don't like this. We want to shift these things. Or something like that is happening.
How did we go from cheese to Elon Musk?
But it's taxes, right? He's
Okay.
using the cheese as a way to talk about taxes.
Okay, I got you.
Right now in Clark County, we have a spot called Lone Mountain. It's gorgeous. You look out and you can see forever. All around it, there's a residential limiter where you're not allowed to be taller than 35 feet. It's a rural preservation area. But right now, the Mormon church is trying to put a temple there, and it'll be tall, super tall. So they're chasing all these exemptions. And they're getting them because the government can hear them. When we get to the point of you and me where we're just kind of sitting around, we're like, I'm here in my house and all my stuff is fine and I don't need to worry about it. I don't need more cheese. How do we tell the government the way that we want them to spend our money? And again, it's talking to your local representatives, finding out what that money is being spent on, and telling them how you feel about it. And that might help with your perception. Once you know where all this money is going,
Now
you get
I'm
a better
calling
idea.
bullshit. I'm calling bullshit.
You know, when we hit,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know, and it doesn't matter if you tell your fucking congressman. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the lobbyists have more money than you, and the lobbyists are lining their pockets better than you can. It doesn't fucking matter because they have corporate sponsors that they have to keep happy.
Actually, it's not actually true. Many studies have been done. Whenever real quick, whenever the public wants something, the public gets what it wants.
No, we get an appeasement.
Real quick,
We
when
get
the
an
public,
appeasement.
there's still more. When the public doesn't want something enough and they're apathetic to something, then the lobbyists get what they want.
I only half agree. And the reason I can only say I half agree is because they give us something, but that something is an appeasement that isn't what it appears to be. And a good example of that is when the environmentalists finally got their big win and the government finally said, okay, yeah, we'll fine all these companies who aren't doing the upkeep or the repairs or the upgrades necessary to prevent like very preventable pollution problems. And everybody was like, yay, we got this big win. We got this big win. No, you didn't get a big win. You didn't get a big win. And it didn't fix anything. Why? Because these companies just continue to pay the fines and pay the fines and pay the fines because the fines are less than fixing it. Right? So, yeah, like on paper, we got a big win. Yay. But what did it do? It didn't do shit.
Yeah, but that's because people became apathetic. The people didn't know enough. They were loud about a very narrow thing. They got the narrow thing. And on the back end, when the people are apathetic, the businesses come in and fix it so they can deal with that thing.
Yeah,
Right?
because
the people
because
did get
of all
what they wanted. The people are just stupid.
well, yeah, because the lobbyists turn around and pay for more psyops, right? Look what we did. We're doing this because of your accomplishments. Blah, blah, just more psyop shit.
That's what guns
Oh
are for.
boy. All right. Pixie, already know what Pixie thinks already. Uh, before we hit the last leg, what are your thoughts so far, Mr. Sturb? I know he didn't get as deeply as, but come on, man. He's a
Listen,
dude in a
it's
garage.
like it's not. I don't think it's bad. I said it's the G-rated, right?
Yeah.
This is the Schoolhouse Rock version of what's going on.
Okay, that's fair. So I'm assuming that's a pause because now, right, this video makes me want to look into this even more.
Yeah, I don't want to say bullshit because what it is there's a field of really super deep bullshit, and then there's a bunch of pixie dust on top. And when he did his research for this video, he went along and scraped the surface and found a bunch of pixie dust and brought it in and brought the pixie dust and said, here's pixie dust. And he just didn't get to the bullshit. Is what I'm saying. It's there. He just didn't bring it in to show you.
So he's basically covering the bullshit with a lot of pixie dust.
No. I don't think he's deliberately covering it up. Right? Like I said, I don't think he is suspicious enough.
Ah, okay, that's fair. That is fair. So, are you mid on this or?
On the subject matter, I call bullshit. On the video, I call pixie dust. I don't. What is like?
Okay, so I guess you're mid then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit the spot where there are tax breaks. The more money you make, the more available tax breaks are to you. It means that we have this split in the economy where some of these tax breaks are inaccessible to people making less than $80,000 a year because they don't have enough of a tax liability to take the break. We're seeing that right now with solar. One of the things that's happening with solar is that if people don't make enough money, they're being told, hey, your solar is going to cost 30 grand, you're going to get 10 grand back as a third, as a rebate at the end of the year. But if they don't have a $10,000 tax liability, they won't. So at the end of the year, they're going, I thought I was going to get 10 grand back, but they're not. So there's this perceptual difference. And that's why I think it's really important to think about how taxes work, why you're seeing them now, and where they're being spent. And that's a good way to keep them from ending up in a cave in Springfield, Missouri. Happy tax day, Dad. Go have a grilled cheese sandwich just to keep those guys in business. Weekly Dad News. Hello?
More to the point that we were discussing a second ago, sir, in order for people to not be apathetic, they would have to do so much more than just write their congressman, right? You would have to know the company behind every product you bought, how that company operated, which products you wanted to avoid, everything. It's why these people who are so mad at Tesla owners crack me up. First of all, 5 years ago, you loved those Tesla owners. But second of all, the entire Tesla board went against him, right? Like, people don't think about that. They don't weigh that in. But these same people, I'm like, okay, but do you buy Brawny? When you have to go get paper plates for a picnic, do you buy Dixie? Right? Because if you don't like Elon, I imagine you would hate the Koch brothers. But then they're like, I don't even know who the Koch brothers are. And I'm like, so you're just inconsistent across everything, right? You're inconsistent, but you're mad that other people aren't as inconsistent as you are. Like, I don't get it.
I think it comes down to awareness. If people aren't aware, they're not going to be mad or like blame, someone who they don't even know exists, or even if the person exists, they don't even know any affiliations. But
That's what I'm saying. There's no belief behind it. It's even when they react, it's reactionary. It's not. Maybe that's why apathy comes so quickly. It's because I don't know.
Oh no, it's bandwidth issue. Apathy comes because it's either not an immediate problem if they're aware of it, right? But most likely they're just not aware of it because they're too busy with their own lives.
Yeah.
Right. The people that are upset for Teslas are too busy being mad with their free time to even possibly consider that they shouldn't buy Brawny paper towels. They don't have the time.
Or Dixie paper plates.
Yeah.
So I did find this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say this is why most of your everyday person tries to go through the legal route to change things because it's something they can focus on. Right? They can't sit here and spend months doing a dissertation level research on what products they can't buy at the store.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if you hate it, or if you got an issue with it, then you can use the legal system. I mean, to be fair, when the Republican parties basically use the judicial system to enact pretty much whatever changes they want that's significant.
Yeah,
so,
but in certain situations that gets hard, right? Like Tesla, for example. People are mad at Elon Musk, but they don't even address the fact that A, it is a very American company with American workers, and B, he has an entire board that wrote a letter to Congress against him, right? Like against Elon. So like where would you land on that, right? Like you don't like the front man, okay, but his entire board went against him. So do we punish everybody?
I mean, sure, but a lot of people who currently now support Elon or even give a shit about the Cybertruck hated Elon before, I guess I don't think he switched sides. I don't believe in that nonsense about
No, he did. He
people,
did, and
like,
I blame
switching
the
sides.
Democrats for it. I blame the Democrats for it. They
I mean-
snubbed him more than once. Not just when they said he wasn't an American company, because he got one part shipped to him from overseas, one part, and he was in the process of making it to where he could have that part done here. So his car is more built in America than any other car. Okay, he was the one who made EVs popular, all of that. When it came time to do the EV rebates, they tried to cut him out of it and said that he wasn't an American company because he opened a factory in China and Germany.
China. Mm-hmm.
China. Okay, but other American companies have factories there, and they're not penalized for it. So they tried to kick him off of that. Then they said that they paraded Ford out. Ford, and said that they were the leader in EVs and they were this great American company and all this other stuff, knowing that Ford gets more parts from overseas than Tesla did. They went out of their way to give Tesla negative press attention all the time. And Elon Musk has a very fragile ego. This is a guy who called a man who rescued kids from a cave full of water a pedo over a petty disagreement about a Tesla submarine that he was going to lend them that wouldn't have gotten there in time. And this guy just dove in and did it. And he called him a pedo over this stupid little fight. This is a man with a very fragile ego. He was never, ever going to take that shit. Not ever.
No, I mean, when I say like him not taking sides, I mean he's going to take whichever side that's going to benefit him the most, right? And that's just my perspective on him.
Yes,
On a lot
yes.
of these people.
I have a
Whoever's
conspiracy.
yes manning him,
Yeah.
is who he's going to go to.
Are you saying, sir?
I think Elon's way more organized than either of you guys are talking about. I have a conspiracy.
Oh boy.
Elon's had this goal to get human beings on another planet for like decades. Right? And he's had this goal basically since he sold a bunch of his share of PayPal way back in the day.
Yep.
Right.
And his first company that he built up that forced him to change his immigration status because he couldn't sell it.
Yeah. And we have to believe him. He says he got with the Tesla thing to develop the batteries and some of the tech he would need to get to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's a huge popular business, so it gets some money, which allows him to use money to start other businesses. Like SpaceX. Right. That's why he started Starlink. Right, to develop technology to communicate with Mars, and also to make a ton of money to help him build businesses to get to Mars. He's also known for hating his businesses for being public. He makes some of them are public when he buys them. Right. Sometimes
anti-union. That was the other reason. Anti-union, they said he was.
Well, yeah, because that takes money away from his goal.
Yeah.
He's anti-union. But my conspiracy is he hates the fact that Tesla's public. Because when you're a public corporation, you have to specifically go after a profit motive, which means you can't move money around. You can't just move money from one business to another business because it's not like your money. And also it keeps you from making strategic long-term decisions. He hates that it's public. I think he saw this as an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. That is to cut the budget so then they could turn around and increase the budget to NASA, which then in turn increases his budget to get to Mars. And in the process, him doing it with Trump pisses everyone off, tanking Tesla stock, right? Which he doesn't actually control the company.
Yeah,
dropping the price so then he can buy the Tesla stock and make it private.
and make it private. But I think he owns like what? I don't think he owns more than 12% of
Yeah.
Tesla, right?
Yeah, but he has the ability to own enough to make it private.
Why would he shoot himself in the foot with the that might be an ego thing because the whole X thing.
Oh,
Twitter
I
thing.
think he was being honest. I think he thought it was dangerous. When you
I
have
don't
so
think
much of
so because you can't say I want free speech and then immediately ban anybody who hurts your feelings. Like that's not how that works. You
Okay.
can't convince me you're concerned
Well,
about free speech and all this shit if
no,
the
he thought
first
it
thing
was
you do
dangerous.
is ban somebody who made a joke about you.
No, he thought it was dangerous, right? To have that much control over the largest, the largest, most used
Social
form of
media.
communication, right?
Yeah, social
At
media.
least the one that had the most influence.
Which is
Right.
hilarious because it's one that I never use.
Right. I'm not saying he's perfectly consistent, but he did understand that the amount of control that was being placed on that was too much.
And so he thought, I'm just gonna prove it by going in there and banning everybody who makes a joke about me.
Oh, way fewer people are banned now.
Yeah, I mean, to be
And there
fair,
are still plenty of people talking shit about him constantly 24/7 on Twitter.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
only banned a handful of people for really fucking with him.
yeah,
Now
and keep in
maybe, but not
mind,
at the beginning.
but keep in mind that part of the reason he also bought Twitter was to influence the election. And I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it is a brilliant move, mainly because one, everyone is looking at the news when it comes to Twitter, right? You have a whole section of the country who are mainly right wingers or like, well, I mean, people probably on the hard right, who basically don't use Twitter because there's a certain things they can't post, and like posting misinformation was frowned upon more so, right? Um, and now they finally have someone to get a platform. But guess what? The reason Twitter is opened up more now to pretty much anyone, right, is because Elon has to make that money. And he makes that money by having more users. More users mean more users you have, the better, because the more advertising dollars that you can gain. And the more popular it is, the more sure, eventually, if you decide to make it public, right, more people are going to want to buy more shares. Because eventually, I think he's going to eventually make Twitter public.
I don't know. I guess I just don't care. Like Twitter is like Discord to me. Like I open it like twice a year, maybe. You know?
Twitter's my playground.
So I don't know.
Okay, let's watch
Okay.
this so I can tell my giant story about cheese.
Okay, yeah.
So I kind of skipped a bunch of this stuff because we already kind of went over it. I don't know how detailed she got into a lot of this stuff, but I think this part is interesting.
In August of 2020, the USDA announced the cheese purchase program for the National School Lunch Program and other federal food assistance programs like food banks. Toward the end of the Trump administration, they scaled back the nutrition regulations for school lunches. This included decreasing the sodium limits and reducing the whole grain requirements. The cheese purchase program directly.
So hold up. Now, take that into consideration. So they decide to push more cheese, grain, or just dairy products into schools, knowing that it's unhealthy and they can't like do any kind of false advertising because they can get sued. They adjusted the nutritional requirements for all of these school lunches. That's
I don't know.
crazy.
They changed the well. Yeah, They change the nutritional requirements basically every president.
Okay.
Yeah, it's she. You know, she's linking this in with cheese a little bit, and maybe that is some of it, right? This might be a bit of a stretch because the strategy's changed.
Okay. That's fair.
Directly led to schools adding more cheese into their lunches. According to the CNBC video, 40% of dairy consumed in the US comes from children ages 2 to 17. I found that statistic really disturbing because that is this age range at which kids have basically no agency over what they eat. They're basically just eating whatever their parents or schools provide for them. And this inevitably leads to them developing this early taste for and dependence on dairy that is really difficult to unlearn. As many of us know, dairy is scientifically addicting. We're not like
Sure.
Sometimes I question if I would be alive without dairy products.
Look, all I'm going to say is I'm not going to disagree that it's psychologically addicting because things that are high in fat are psychologically addicting. We're predisposed to like to eat fat.
Yes, we
Like
are. But
we're predisposed to like to eat sweet things too. That's what milk is, sweet and fat.
also, I'm pretty sure that I would be like dangerously low weight if dairy products did not exist very
So
heavily in my diet.
so hold on, Pixie. Hold up a second. With that in mind, do you want to change your bullshit recommendation there in the last one? Because that's actually a pretty good point considering you need to put on more weight. So
No, but I'm not very normal. Like I don't think you could consider like my issues average though. So I can't change it because I don't think it like benefited the average, right? I'm just saying like some of us would not be here without without that big push.
okay.
giving all this excess cheese to kids because it's good for them. We're doing it because we need something to do with it. But to be honest, the entire school lunch program is pretty corrupt. There's a whole CNBC video about it that is really eye-opening. On top of all of this, dairy farming itself has become an increasingly stressful profession. Small and medium-sized dairy farms in particular are really struggling amid the decreased demand. These farms are often producing and selling at a complete loss. The smaller dairy farms are oftentimes in contract with these bigger dairy producers, and a lot of times they're in this crippling debt that it's pretty much impossible to get out of. According
So do you think okay, Serb, you brought up a really important point the last time about corporations being psychopaths, right? And the fucked up thing about them being psychopaths is that they live forever, which means they have the ability to grow infinitely,
Yeah.
right? Do you, well, you did say in the last stream that that's something we should push to bring back. But I can understand now why these industries, not just the cheese one, there are other industries that are affected by these like mega versions of them, right? Because if you have mega versions of the typical cheese, dairy farm, right? Then the smaller guy will always suffer as a result, right? He has less control over the market than the other
They don't
guy.
have the leverage.
Yeah, they don't have any leverage. That's interesting. But okay, so I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% on the idea of it's done for the purposes of regulating the market anymore. With that in mind.
I would agree. I don't think these programs and stuff are not specifically for just making the market better for Americans.
Okay, I
It
changed my
used to be
mind.
that,
Yeah.
not anymore.
Okay.
to CNBC, 3% of dairy farms are producing 50% of the country's milk. So it's just totally stacked against the smaller farms in general.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy. 3%. Wow.
More and more dairy farms are filing for bankruptcy, and as a result, there's this growing mental health crisis among dairy farmers. I think a lot of dairy farmers, they're not evil people. They're just doing what in many cases generations of their family before them have done. For a lot of people, this is their family's legacy, this is their inheritance, this is what they've been given, and they have to try to figure out a way to make it work. Instead of the US government continuing to bail them out, why aren't there policies in place to help them transition to whatever is next? It just seems like the way that we've been helping them is not actually helping. We're just pushing this problem along, and the only thing we're helping them to do is getting them further and further into debt. And I don't.
Do you think the way to help industries that's in the situation of the dairy farmers is to basically kill off the mega corporations?
Yeah, I mean, well, uh,
But how would you even do
that
that?
would be
Like,
that would be probably the quickest way to do it. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but
but
it's the
how would
quickest.
you even like even if let's say all of America decides to do that, like how would that even be done in a I use the word fair manner, the word fair loosely, like in a fair way.
There's no way to do it fair because there's so many. The market is so big; it has so many players in it. There's no way that a top-down system like the federal government can be fair.
All right.
Right? So they don't try to be fair. They try to shoot for an outcome. Right?
Okay.
And in the process, some people are going to be treated unfairly, and some people are going to get an advantage. And they just go, well, the outcome's better than not having the outcome. So tough shit.
That's yeah, I get that. I kind of wish I um she seems to be a little bit more serious about the issue.
Yeah.
Like he's talking about
Yeah.
the consequences more so than the other guy talking about the taxes. Because to be fair, the conversation was about taxes. So that's what I found, right? And that's what I prioritized. Where this one, I did watch a little bit, like in the first part of the video, and I was like, it doesn't seem like she's really focused on the tax part of things, right? And when I glanced over this stuff, it doesn't seem like that was her focus, but it seems as if um, this is bigger than just taxes. Even from the
Yeah.
previous video, it's clear that it is bigger than taxes.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for what we use this stuff for now, they it was like I wouldn't call it fair, but it is probably the fairest way to do it. And it's the most controlled way to do it. And people have talked about this, right? Because a lot of economists don't like the fact that corporations are immortal. It's
Yeah,
it's it's like an existential threat that they're immortal.
yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
what you could do is bring back lifespans for corporations, right? And then for like this, let's say this industry specifically, you could make a starting small but progressively slowly increasing tax on products coming from dairy corporations. So over the course of the next like 40, 50 years, as those corporations are about to die, no one buys cheese from them anymore anyway because it would be too expensive. And over the course of those decades, the other dairy farmers can build up and expand, and you could have new dairy farmers. But
And
you
it'll,
need the shift to go
yeah,
slow so no one blows their brains out.
yeah. But then again, you'll have to provide obviously like ample low interest rate loans and stuff like that to kind of support the newer guys that want to get in the
Oh well,
game.
that already exists with the Department of
Okay.
Agriculture for like all agricultural products. Right, that part's
Okay.
already done. It's just you know uh, when the little guys are being squeezed out by big guys that can take short term losses over and over again. Right,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if you can get a small business loan of low cost because you're just going to be out of business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Don't pretend that it is easy or even feasible in many cases for a dairy farm to just transition to crop.
Do you guys want to do another stream, but with this video addressing the other side of the cheese, because this cheese shit is very interesting. I'm not gonna lie, it seems more serious than the other guy, right?
Yeah,
But
I don't, I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know, right? Because she does seem more serious, but it's just in what she's focusing on, which is uh, people are hurting. Let's make people not hurt. Right? She's
okay,
still
that's
not.
fair.
I would bet going through this, she's still not connecting why the strategy changed from government buying milk, making cheese, giving cheese to poor people, to psyop.
See, okay, so I only watched like up to like just maybe here. I didn't watch the rest of this because again, it didn't seem like she was talking about the tax-based stuff, the tax-related stuff, right? But I understand now that you're saying that it's an actual psyop. I don't know if she addressed if she addressed that aspect of things in these two sections here. I don't know if she did or not.
I'm sure she has DMI, and there's some.
Okay,
It would be almost impossible to look in to the 1.5 billion pounds of government cheese and not find out about DMI.
okay, that's fair. Well, I mean, she got a conclusion, right? Final thoughts and a outro or whatever. So let's see what she says.
Farming. Obviously, we have these heartwarming stories of dairy farms that have done that. In October, California's oldest dairy farm, Giacomozy Dairy, closed down after 125 years to grow almonds instead. 3 years earlier, Elmhurst Dairy in New York shut down its dairy plant and shifted to offering vegan nut-based milk instead of cow's milk. I remember that being a huge deal when Elmhurst transitioned, and this just reminds me to support Elmhurst products more. I oftentimes don't buy their products because they are really expensive because they're super high quality nut milks, and they also don't have, thickeners in them. So it's harder to froth them up for something like a cappuccino. But this is just a reminder of like, support Elmhurst more. They did something that's
Okay, can
pretty
we pause right
incredible,
there?
and got to put our money.
Don't support Elmhurst more.
Oh
Stop.
boy.
It's not just Elmhurst specifically, right? It's not like Elmhurst is
Yeah,
evil,
yeah.
right? It's stop spending money on people trying to grow tree nuts in the fucking desert. You wonder why? Oh no, we don't have enough water all over California. Oh no, why is all of our water being sprayed on nut trees? Oh, that's right. We're growing
Yeah.
these in the desert.
And that
I
couple
agree.
bought up a shit ton of the state's water, which is insane, th- to water their billions of, acres of land with stuff that needs water. It's insane, dude. Oh boy. I get what you're saying though.
Money where our mouth is, and if we're encouraging them to make these transitions, let's reward the ones who have done so.
She's probably looking at this from the animal perspective, where there are people who see dairy farming as immoral, at least the way how it's done by major corporations or whatever.
I'm definitely getting like some sort of vegan vibes because earlier she said, they're not all evil people. This is just what's been inherited,
Yeah, that's true too. Maybe she
And then
is.
and then she's like, they did something amazing. They went to nut milk.
Yeah,
So,
maybe she's trying to push that agenda. Everybody's got an agenda.
yeah.
There are some farms even that are still producing dairy, but then they have also started growing something else like oats. I know that isn't the perfect solution, but I think that could be a really great step. Just sort of committing to transitioning one small piece of the farm and seeing how it goes. And hopefully there will be more programs like this to help farmers. But this is what we need, right? Instead of like a $40 billion government bailout in 1 year. How about we allocate even a fraction of that to helping farmers transition if this is something that they want to do? The whole thing about protecting the dairy industry is especially ridiculous when you consider that this is a product that is entirely unnecessary for humans to consume. We're protecting this industry like it's our lifeblood, like it's the key to humanity's survival, when really it's the complete opposite of that in many ways.
See, ma'am, you got a problem because probably 70% of the country is addicted to milk and cheese. So
Yeah,
you're
I'm not even for reducing the consumption of milk, because studies have shown kids that eat high fat milk are literally smarter.
yeah,
Right? Their brains develop better. So I'm not saying get rid of the milk. I'm just saying maybe stop destroying countries with it.
dude. I need to find. Okay. Let me write that down. How the United States weaponize cheese.
I got the whole story. I'm just waiting. I'm holding on to it over here.
All right.
The dairy industry is destroying the planet. It's terrible for human health. It's horrific for the animals. And not only that, but
Okay. Just tell your story. We already know where she's going with this.
The whole story.
I called
Okay.
it. I called it. We were going down the vegan road.
Okay. First off, I need to explain the nuances of what a Karen is.
Oh boy.
Right. I know we all know the general idea of the Karen is the loud woman
Yeah.
that picks on people. Sometimes they're racist, whatever. The thing is, Karens are Karens because they think what they're fighting for is the right thing. Right? They're not inherently evil. They think what they're doing is the right thing.
Sometimes they just know and they don't care.
But when you have a Karen movement, right? What I'm trying to get at is when you have a
That's
movement
fair.
of Karens, there's going to be things in that movement that are right.
When you have a gaggle of them, okay,
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
Good
There's
point.
going to be right things that they want. It's just going to also come with a bunch of really terrible ideas. Okay. Just because I'm gonna call something Karen, and just because I call it a Karen movement, doesn't mean I think everything's wrong. I'm just trying to highlight the type of person that caused this to start to happen. Okay. It's the progressive movement, like the progressive era, the late 1800s to early 1900s. We call it the progressive era, but I call it first wave Karenism.
Jesus.
Right, right. Because you got women's suffrage. Women's suffrage is good, right? But all of these policies that come out of the progressive era are ones that are by percentage overwhelmingly supported by women. But obviously, all women, like they're not all women are marching on Washington, right? Karens are marching on Washington.
Are you saying are you blaming the women for this, sir? Are
No,
you blaming
it's
feminists?
not a no. It's not a blame thing. This is a butterfly effect thing.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
a series of unfortunate events going throughout time, right? This is a Karen butterfly creating a hurricane on the other side of the planet.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So you got the progressive era. With that comes women's suffrage. Well, prohibition first by like half a year. Women's suffrage. Like a decade later, you got Social Security. You got workers' rights, right? You got rid of child labor, right? This is the Karen movement, right? There's good things in there. That's what I'm trying to say. Just because they're bad people doesn't mean they're always wrong. Uh, so that happens. We get prohibition. You have to remember women's suffrage on one side, but we get prohibition. All these bars close, like these public bars closed. Overwhelmingly, these bars reopen as ice cream parlors. Right. So this time, right? This time for prohibition before the crash, before the Great Recession, and after the Great Recession. You have all these ice cream parlors, and people are going to socialize at ice cream parlors. That's why the classic ice cream parlor looks like a bar. They have bar stools,
Ah.
right? So
Is
everyone's
that why they used to like slide your milkshakes down the bar at you?
yeah, because lots of times
Yeah.
initially the person that made the milkshakes was the bar back, right? You know, yesterday he was a bar back, today he makes milkshakes.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
crazy.
just slide it down at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So then people get in the habit of socializing at these parlors instead of in bars. So everyone starts eating more dairy. The dairy market booms. First time in human history, people can afford to be a specifically dairy farmer. So we have this huge increase in dairy milk. World War One happens. There's a side story going on. World War One happens. So it causes and at the end of the war, right? There's this lull in food production in Europe. So we increased the production of all food, including dairy products that can make it across the ocean, like cheese. So we start subsidizing it more. We start subsidizing it then, right? The late 1935, like
Mhm.
1935. Oh no, 1933. Sorry. Uh, World War II happens. Prohibition goes away. We still have the parlors. More bars open up, some parlors close. But World War II happens. And we start having to buy, the government starts having to buy a ton of extra calories. Because it turns out, you know, farming's hard work, factory's hard work, but running all day long shooting at Germans is extremely hard work. Right? You need to eat a lot of fucking cheese. So the government buys even more fucking cheese. Now we have even more dairy being made. World War II gets over with. No one's eating all that extra cheese that the government just had to buy to pay. So there's an immediate drop, just plummet in the dairy market. Government goes, oh no, we just got out of we're like just getting out of a recession. We can't let a giant chunk of the economy just implode. So they set a policy in place that makes a floor price on dairy, meaning that look, if you make too much dairy and people don't buy it, and producers of cheese don't buy it, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
We'll just buy it. It doesn't matter how much it is. They literally say it doesn't matter how much it is. If you make a gallon of milk and you can't sell it for this price that we're offering, we'll buy it at that price. Just bring it to us, we'll buy it. So what happens is we get this crash in the marketplace. Production doesn't stop because this happens almost immediately. So we have this all-time high in World War II in dairy production, and it spikes even higher because, you know, if I want to make more money as a farmer, I no longer need more people to eat it and drink it.
Yeah.
I have a person that makes the money that says they'll always give me the money. So I am going to make literally as much as I can
As much as
humanly
yeah.
possibly make.
Yeah, because as far as you're concerned, it's an infinite money glitch, basically.
It's an infinite money glitch, right? And you know, parlors disappear, but now you got ice cream shops, and it just shifts over time. So the government makes the Agricultural Act of 1949. That's the floor price. Government starts buying all the extra milk, right? Everyone gets the government money. Then I mentioned the dates before, but I can't remember. There's like 5 or 6 different little tweaks here, but between then and 1977, right, when he's talking about Jimmy Carter, where they do a little incentive here and they do a little incentive there, and they start opening the caves up. They start making the cheese and storing it because they can't get enough people to do it. They've been giving it to schools in the 60s, for free, right, to help feed kids. They've been giving it to the army. Cheese is delicious. People in the army love cheese. They eat cheese. It's not enough people. It's just building up and building up in these giant caves. They open more caves. They get more cheese. Then Reagan comes in and goes, he has his Doge moment, looks over everything and goes, holy crap. Why the fuck how the fuck did I not know that we have 1 billion pounds of cheese? Why do we have 1 billion pounds of cheese? Tries to throw it in the ocean. No go. Has the government cheese program. Of course, we still can't give away enough cheese because the government has said no matter how much you make, we will buy. So they're constantly always increasing the amount of cheese. The amount of cheese being produced doesn't drop a single year from the 1940s when they introduced the floor price. It increased every year, and it doesn't increase with the population increase. It's just exponential growth. Right? You can't give it away fast enough.
Yeah.
So Reagan does the research with the agricultural department of what you can do with this. They realize that, Reagan, like Trump, doesn't really like the Bretton Woods deal. The Bretton Woods deal is the deal we made with specifically Europe, but basically the whole planet, that says, look, everyone's blown up. Everyone that has an economy basically is blown to smithereens. We'll open our wealthy market to you guys so you can sell your stuff here. We'll foot the bill for all the warships that have to guard the shipping lanes. So you don't have to. You just focus on rebuilding your economy. We'll buy your shit. You'll build your economy back up and everything will be fine. Reagan doesn't like that. Reagan's America first. Right? Reagan realizes that these countries, we've made dairy so cheap because we have this floor price that these countries start tariffing our dairy. Well, Bretton Woods deal. We're like the only superpower. I mean, the USSR is a superpower, but really, when you look at it on paper, not really doesn't really compare to us. But doesn't like this is the situation. So we don't like Reagan could have stopped. He could have stopped buying the cheese. He didn't. What he did is because the administration's in the presidential branch. He could have literally just stopped the program.
Yeah.
He didn't need approval. He could have said, no more, we're done. He didn't. What he started to do is, we could use this to bully countries into favorable trade deals. He goes, hey,
Oh, he's hurt. Oh my God.
cheese, we could use cheese in European countries. Kind of included Canada in that because he wasn't very sophisticated, didn't really understand that Canadians are still different than Europeans, even though they're still in the UK. Canada, Mexico, all of the European countries put tariffs on our dairy, higher tariffs on our cheese, right? Because they make their own cheese, they're snobby, they want their cheese. We start whining about these tariffs so we can bully them into doing other things when we have a trade deal. It's just a negotiation chip, right? This is why he doesn't stop it. He takes this farther and starts heavily subsidizing corn and soybeans because the Chinese don't like cheese or dairy. Not very big in Asia. It turns out Asians are like the most lactose intolerant people on the face of the earth. Who would have thought?
That's crazy.
But you know what they like to eat a lot of? Corn and soybeans.
Corn and soybeans, yeah.
And the meats that they like to eat are fed really well on corn and soybeans. So we subsidize corn and soybeans so hard that farmers in poor countries, like poor African countries, literally can't grow it cheap enough to feed themselves. That's how cheap it is. That's how cheap it still currently is.
That's
we-
crazy.
But we do that to start using it as a bitching post against China. And who opens the door to China trade? The Chinese trade. It's Reagan. Reagan wants China to develop its economy to sell us cheap shit while also becoming dependent on our corn and soybeans. Right?
Wow.
So think about it. In 1990, China, right after the doors were open, right before all the changes start happening in their economy, China is actually, I think I have to think here, right here somewhere. Yeah. China is 93.6% self-sufficient when it comes to food. They import some food from the countries right next to them. Right, mostly the Russians up on the northern border. That's the food they import. By the year 2020, right, as soon as Trump gets done, like his term ends, their self-sufficiency drops almost like it's like 38%. It drops to like 65%. Almost all of their food, like if their food doesn't come directly to us, a lot of the food that they produce in their country is reliant on the food they get from us. Like all of their meat production is reliant on us.
Yeah.
The majority of their calories outside of rice come from us. They're dependent on us. Right? Every time the Chinese get pissy, they do a little token tariff, right, on our corn and soybeans because we sell them so much. But what they don't understand is that we don't care. It's a weapon.
Yeah.
You have to have the corn and soybeans. But I'm getting off track. We use dairy just like that for Canada, Mexico, and the EU, and the UK. Right? That they tariff our dairy so much, we use it as a bargaining chip to get trade deals. And then Reagan goes, "Hey, we can take the corn and soybeans to use as feed for our cows, and then start importing our beef. This is why all the countries have high tariffs on our beef. We're using it to bully countries into giving us the shit they have that we want. That's the weapon. That's why after Reagan gets out of office, it goes from trying to slow the production of cheese and hand out excess cheese to a psyop because the government can get the American public to essentially fit the bill of maintaining this trade weapon. That's why it shifts. It's no longer about altruism. It's now about getting Canada to give us good deals on oil.
Yeah.
Right. It's now about getting Europe to give us good deals on minerals.
So you can give us
it's about real quick. It's about getting Western African countries to do exactly what we say when we say it, because they can no longer afford to even grow their own food.
Yeah, because you got good cheese.
It doesn't have to be good cheese. It doesn't have to be good soybeans. It doesn't have to be good corn. Right? It just has to be so fucking cheap that you could own a cow, your own cow, in your backyard, and you would lose money if you didn't buy the cheese from us.
Yeah. Because if you own land, right, you got to pay property taxes on the land, and then you got to make sure the land is good so your cow can graze. If you don't have, if you can't afford feed, but even if you can afford feed, you're still spending money to feed that cow. You have to make sure the cow is staying pregnant, right? And you have to do all sorts of stuff to that milk to maintain it. So it's
basically American rules the world because they have cheese.
Well, we went to the.
What are you saying?
We went to the first world with dairy and meat to bully them into giving us what we want. We went to the third world with
So
corn and
America
soybeans.
owns the world because you have.
More specifically, the third world, right? China wasn't
Oh,
developed
so
yet, right?
just the
China
third.
wasn't developed yet. Africa wasn't developed. Africa still mostly isn't developed. We go, hey, we understand that your economy is on a subsistence farming level. Stop farming.
And we'll give you cheese.
Well, we're going to force you to stop farming by giving you food so cheap that your farmers can't afford to live.
Right.
And then you're going to go into towns,
Yeah.
and American companies are going to come in and quote unquote invest in your wealth.
In your wealth, yeah.
And we're going to make factories and mines where we dig up the shit we want from your country, and we're going to put you into our factories that assemble and refine the shit we want from your country, and then we're going to bring it into our country. And then we're going to go, hey, why such big trade deficit? How about you give us more shit?
Cheese.
A matter of fact,
So basically, America rules the world because you give everyone cheese.
No, we rule the world because of Karens.
Carrots?
Karens.
Oh, Karens.
Yeah.
I thought it said carrots. So
Yeah,
not cheese.
We unleashed the Karens on our political system, and it led to a butterfly effect that now has us in the position where we control most of the world with calories.
So what happened to the cheese?
Well, we eat it.
But you give it to the rest of the world.
No, not the cheese.
No.
We use it. We use the tariffs first world countries put on our cheese because they don't want their dairy industry to collapse, right? They don't want to become dependent on us for food. So they tariff us. Then we get to complain how they tariff us, right? Even though we eat enough of the cheese. We don't actually need them to import the cheese. But we want to complain about them importing the cheese.
So you don't give anyone cheese?
No, I mean, they buy some cheese, but that's not the strategy. The strategy, we don't care that much that the first world doesn't get the cheese. We care that when we negotiate trade deals, we can go, hey, you got a 50% tariff on our dairy. So how about we start from the position where we're going to tariff you to start with, to make this equal.
So where does the cheese come in?
It's the motivation. It's the reasoning for the other countries to have the tariff.
The motivation is the cheese.
Yeah. We subsidize the cheese so much that other countries have to tariff it. So then when we go to trade negotiations with them, we have more chips in the negotiation than they do.
Not chips. You have more cheese.
The cheese isn't a chip. It's a metaphor. You think about it.
America has more cheese, so they rule the world.
It's not just cheese. Cheese is just their strategy with the first world.
Yeah, the third world you own because you have more cheese.
Well, people think European countries don't import our milk because we use hormones. They had the tariffs on our milk before we used the hormones.
How do you make a hormone?
It's just an excuse. We will if they don't have the tariffs, right? If they have the tariffs. Yeah. So when we make a trade deal with them, they have to give us shit so we don't tariff them back.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a preemptive strike. So we get shit from them for what we're investing in cheese at home.
You give them cheese.
Right. And they can never get rid of the tariff on dairy. Because if they do, it will cause their food production to collapse and their economy to collapse.
Do you or do you not give them cheese?
No. If we gave them cheese, that would defeat the point.
You don't give them cheese.
No. We specifically want them to not want our cheese.
So what do you give them?
Oh, well, we don't give them anything. we use their tariffs on cheese to get them to give us stuff. Actually, the UK is a good example, right? If you go look into the dairy industry in the UK, it clapped roughly in proportion with the reduction in their tariffs on dairy from us.
Yeah. So you don't give anyone anything, and that's how you rule the world. Is what it's
No, no. Well, yeah. If they start, literally, if they start taking our dairy, they won't be able to make enough food to feed themselves.
I was going to say, what's interesting is that the more I was doing some research on Jamaica's economy and why the fell, right? And I realized there was a correlation between the country importing more meat from the United States and dairy from the United States and grain. But what's weird is that all of that was produced in Jamaica at a decent pricing, right? But then they decided for whatever reason to import all of these American produce, and all of a sudden the farms basically like disappeared, and it became cheaper for people to basically just buy American or imported foods versus local stuff.
Yeah. So
and that basically killed a good percentage of the farming industry in the country.
Now what you need to look up is what it was when we probably negotiated with them for imports. Right. You need to look up what it was that we were trying to get from them because they were tariffing our imports. Because what it was is it was something you guys Jamaica didn't want to get rid of. So Jamaica went,
Probably.
You know what? Instead of the America destroying our economy with their own tariffs, we're just going to take their food.
Yeah, it's.
Wait, pause. Wild's been trying to jump in for a sec. What is it, Wild?
It's just a comment. No wonder the whole world hates us. We are the magnificent bastards. That sentence would be perfect if you take out the word magnificent.
All right.
There's something that most of the world doesn't know. Definitely most Americans don't know. America has the largest navigable waterway on the face of the earth. Our coastline is the way our coastline is. One of our coasts has more coastline than around all of Africa. Our navigable waterway, so we have the most deep ocean ports of anywhere on the earth. And our largest navigable waterway overlaps with the largest, most fertile growing grounds.
And that makes you better how?
It allows us to make food cheaper in our country and ship it to the other side of the planet than it is for the other side of the planet to feed themselves.
Okay, I'll have to think about that. That could be true, actually. Yeah, so I'm not trying to cause trouble then.
Yeah, most of the farming land on Earth, their production drops to almost zero without fertilizer.
So
our production, wait, real quick, the production of most of our growing area only drops about 33% without fertilizer.
But you know that America has only existed for like 300 years, and the rest of the world has existed for a lot longer.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Who was here before? Who was in America before the U.S. before the U.S. was founded, though?
Pixie, help me. Native Americans.
Native Americans. They didn't really take advantage of the situation they had. They really
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So you're saying that because America has the greatest waterways and that keeps the rest of the world going, but you've only existed.
No, I have to disagree with Sir.
No,
it's not that It's not that they didn't take advantage of it. It's that they didn't have the same types of concepts. They
think that's
did
the same
farm.
thing.
They farmed. They had agriculture, things like that. They didn't have They didn't have like domesticated herds because they hunted. But that could also be. It's theorized that that's one of the reasons that they didn't have like immunity to certain diseases and things. They think that the reason the British and the Europeans who came over had more like immunities to certain types of diseases is not just geographical, but the fact that the Europeans domesticated livestock. And so by living in close quarters with livestock, they were passing back and forth these viruses that can mutate between the two of them. Right? Now, the natives did not domesticate livestock, they just hunted. But they did have agriculture. A lot of them did have like permanent residents and permanent cities and houses and everything like that. They weren't all nomadic.
I know, but what we're talking about, the context of using the geography to influence countries on the other side of the earth.
Yeah,
No, that's
but
what I'm saying, but they didn't have like a lot of concept of. I'm not saying that they didn't know other countries existed or that no native had ever seen another country. I'm just saying like the concept of like cities and working for a wage, like these things were not concepts to them.
Okay.
but my point is, you're saying that without America, countries on the other side of the world wouldn't exist or wouldn't.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
What
No,
is
what he said is it's easy for America to take advantage of certain situations simply because the land here is so good and our waterways are so good that we have the resources to take advantage of countries. For example, we can produce food very like a lot more cheaply here. It costs us less to produce the same thing
yeah?
that you produce. And because we do it so well and we hold it as a bargaining chip very, very well, we get what we want. And we get what we want not because you can't feed yourself, but because we can do it so cheaply that you may as well not be able to.
So if you can put various last comments up, not last one, the last. No wonder the whole world hates us. It should be manipulative. It's manipulative bastards.
Yeah, the people that came to
Not
America and founded the
manipulative.
U.S.
Yeah, manipulative.
We hit the jackpot when it came to geography.
Yeah. So rather than magnificent bastards, it should be manipulative bastards. I agree. I completely agree. Yeah. Yeah.
And most Americans don't even know what we're doing. We don't know that we're using we don't know that we're using all those subsidies that people want to end for our literal dominance around the globe.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Americans are manipulative bastards. I completely agree.
Hey, just don't
Right.
challenge
But
us.
he's saying there's irony in that, like
Yeah.
these subsidies that we use in order to maintain this grip and this control
Yeah.
are the very things that people want to end because they think it's waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
U.S.
literally
aid.
bringing them the shit they want. They don't understand.
But we do all agree that the Americans are manipulative bastards. We can all agree.
So, like,
Yeah.
take for example, apparently U.S. aid buys up a ton of grain, right, and from the farmers, and
Yeah.
so what they do with the grain is that they
Use it
basically
to
distribute it to
manipulate.
gain soft power. Can you stop? Can you let me speak without
Sorry.
interrupting me?
But I asked the question: can we all agree that Americans are basically manipulative bastards? And I don't think you're answering the question.
As a country, you mean like you mean like in foreign policy? Sure. Americans in general, no.
Yeah. Okay. So the American government are manipulative bastards. Can we all agree on that?
I mean, on
Our-
that, yes.
Our poli-sci, right? Our poli-sci strategists are manipulative bastards. That's literally their job. Every country has that.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you made Gatto Dean to leave. Bad Wild Heart.
Oh no, Batman.
No, sorry, that's not my fault. I asked the question, can we all agree on that? He could have said no, he could have said yes. That is not my fault. I asked the question.
I understand, but you've asked it several times now, and they were in the middle of speaking.
And no one's answered it.
Yes, we have. As a matter of fact, I answered it.
You did.
And
Yeah.
they were in the middle of speaking while.
No, I'm
I
agreeing
don't
with
want us to hold on.
you.
I
Answered
understand I answered it, but they were in the middle of speaking about something.
But I asked a question and audience.
Sometimes you have to wait because people are engaged in something else, Wild.
Why, when he's trying to answer my question, why would he be talking to someone else?
He wasn't trying to answer your question. You interrupted in a conversation between Batman and Serb with your question more than once. They were trying to discuss something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I asked the panel, everyone on the panel, a question.
I know, but they were in the middle of discussing something and he didn't want to lose his thought.
Mhm.
It's okay. It's not a big deal.
You don't
He's-
understand. Hmm.
How are you doing? Have you gotten any rest since the last time we talked? Wild.
Oh, sorry, you're talking to me.
Have you gotten any rest since the last time we talked?
Yes, a little bit.
Have you
Well,
drank any water?
2 hours.
Please get some water.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be argument. It's weird. It's like everyone else can say what they want and ask questions and do what they want, and whenever I do it, everyone calls me a cunt. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not that you asked. It's not that you asked a question. I obviously answered the question, right? It's not
You did.
about that. Sometimes it's about timing. They were previously engaged, and I know that you don't know this, especially when you're struggling. But sometimes you'll circle back to it, and it like it's just timing. It's just timing, Wild.
Yeah, but if I ask a question and then the audience speaks, I presume that he's trying to answer my question, and he wasn't. I don't
No,
understand.
because what happened was we had addressed the comment and then they kept talking and then we addressed the comment again and then they kept talking, right? Like we interrupted their conversation.
So they
twice.
completely ignored my question.
No, you're misunderstanding what I said. I said they were in the middle of a conversation. They were both discussing something and trying not to lose their train of thought, and me and you interrupted them twice. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's about timing, and that's it. Please drink some water.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't understand.
I'll be
I'm
back
not
just 1
asking you
second.
to hush. Okay, see you in a minute. I'm not asking you to hush at all. That is not what I'm asking. Will you please get some water, though? I just want to see you drink some water because you keep holding your head. And I'm guessing that you're either struggling to stay with me or you're really dehydrated. And that's why I'm asking you to get some water.
Hello.
Hey, Midnight Wild, please come back. I'm not asking you to go away. I'm not asking you to be quiet. I'm not asking you any of that. I am asking you to get some water, though, because you're holding your head. Hopefully he will return shortly.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not upset or anything. I'm just confused. I know it's probably my fault for obvious reasons. But like when I asked the panel a question and someone starts replying, I presume they're replying to my question, but he obviously wasn't. And I don't understand that.
They were in the middle of a conversation. Wild, he didn't pause his thought to address yours because he didn't want to lose the thought that was already in his head. Please get some water.
I will go and get some water. I still don't understand that.
Okay, so if you were I'll try to explain it while you get some water.
Yeah.
Sometimes okay, in my head there's a lot. Oh, I got it. I know how to explain it to you. In your mind, Wild, you kind of get you get focused on one thing, like the question, right? You will ask the question and you will ask the question and you will ask the question until you get the answers, because that's where your mind is focused. And I am the exact opposite of that. I have so many thoughts running through my head all the time, constantly, that if you interrupt me too many times and or if you don't let me get it out, I will completely forget. And then when it's my turn to talk, I don't remember what I was going to say anymore. And so they were having a discussion and they didn't want to lose their place. And so it's not about blowing you off, it's about getting it out.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm the same. It's just when I ask a question and then someone responds, I thought he was responding to my question. If he was talking to Serb, that's fine. It's just
He was
I thought
trying.
I thought he was actually answering my question, but he wasn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I answered your question.
Yeah.
We kind of interrupted their conversation, is what happened there.
Oh yeah, that was my fault. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he was trying to dig through what I was saying in relation to where he came from, because what I was talking about happened where he came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my fault. You know, I'm not that bright.
But by the way, we did the same thing with clothing. You noticed in the late '90s and early aughts, everyone started getting closed donation bins. Most of those donations don't go to Americans; they go to South America and Africa to suppress their clothing industry.
Racist.
It turns out that you can't own a shirt manufacturing business in a country being given free shirts. So think about that next time you donate shirts.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Can I just say hello to tall baby Yoda? Sorry if anyone hadn't noticed, I'm very, very, I don't want to swear on Pixie channel, but I'm very, very drunk. So I'll just
That's sweet, but I'm pretty sure I dropped the motherfucker bomb earlier, so.
Oh, get in. I can say what I want then. No. Yeah.
I don't tend to curse a lot, but well, it depends. If I get pretty tipsy, if I get pretty tipsy, I'll start cursing, but not like in an angry way. I'll just be sitting here. I'll just be sitting here and I'll just start. I can't even do it because I'm not tipsy. But if I get really tipsy, like there'll just be like F-bombs everywhere. I'll be like, I don't fucking know. I was just doing this shit, and then she came over here, and then that bitch was like, and I was like, fuck this. And then people are like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm great.
Oh, but Pixie, can I ask what you said the MF thing about? Just curious.
Oh, I think I said never whitewash what a politician does. That's a lot like saying Jackson just gave the Indians some new homes. And I said, no, motherfucker, that's not what happened. And we're going to fight.
Oh yeah, that was in regards to the guy in the video saying that Reagan gave out free cheese to the poor.
Yeah.
I had to insert that. No, he tried to throw it in the ocean first.
Can I bring up a point though that you brought up about the shirts being donated? Like
Yeah.
you said, it's not good to have a lobby of a place where you're manufacturing clothing, right? If you're getting free clothing, like doesn't that make sense though? Because you're already receiving clothing. Why would you want to waste product on already given like resource or material for that matter?
Well, the thing is, a lot of because South America is where it had the most impact. That's where we focused with the campaigns. South America, I mean, it has resources, but a lot of it's very mountainous, or it's really heavily thickly jungled. So it's way too expensive to get to resources to ship them out. So they can't compete on resources. And for the same reason, they can't compete with food. So all they can do is manufacture, but all the other wealthier countries do manufacturing better because they have so much more resources. There's like one narrow glimmer of hope is they could do textiles. There's cotton you can grow in high elevation, right? You can build a clothing plant anywhere. And a lot of South American countries try to develop a clothing industry, textile industry. And we wasn't having any of that because we want South America to make oil and grow fruit.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna
now we
say they
donate
give
them
her
a
to
bunch of
grow.
clothing so they can't make clothing.
I was gonna say it should go into the probably resources of food is what I'm saying. Like fruits and vegetables is the more obvious choice than a bunch of fucking clothing. I mean, what do you need clothes for in the hot heat over there? You're just gonna be naked in the sun.
Yeah. Why do you need clothes in Africa? And
It's just an economic thing.
Why did they build the mud huts so far away from the water? They have to walk like 10 miles to get to the water. Why not just build the mud huts closer to the water? Like far. I'm joking. Sorry, Pixie. I'll shut up.
Well, you should probably never build your mud hut next to the river. It's a terrible idea. But that's another thing. No, it's just an economic thing. If you want your country to be wealthy, you have to get away from extracting wealth from the ground as your main economic mode. Right? You have to go up the value added chain, and the first way to do that from just getting resources from the ground is these low priority manufacturing things like clothing, cheap gadgets, like all that, all the stuff China does. Right? That's where they're at. They stopped being the mining like subsistence farming economy into making the lower grade manufacturing things, and they're trying to go into tech. Right? They're trying to go another step up. Well, that's
see,
what South
I
America
see
was
what you're
trying to
saying,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, South America was trying to go up.
Well, you see, they're going about it the wrong way. They instead of trying to make clothes, they should get into the hat making business, like sombreros. I mean, think about it. They would sell
Well, I mean-
bazillions of dollars with sombreros.
The market isn't nearly as big for hats, unfortunately.
I mean, and then you can use. You don't even need to freaking have raw material. You could just use pet products like leaves or some shit and just weave them together. There you go. Very own resource. No one can crop you out. Straight from the land. Sombreros, and it beats the heat.
It also helped us try to stop communism from going into South America too. That was part of it.
So we've dealt with the blacks, we've dealt with the Chinese. Can we move on to, I don't know, Russians, the Jews?
I mean, who do you think we're using the cheese on? It's all the white people.
So we're dealt with the white and the blacks. The Chinese. Can we please move on to the Jews?
Oh no.
I missed most of the shindig. Could you give me a TLDR?
First wave Karenism caused us to weaponize cheese, corn, and soybeans, and we use it to control the world.
Is that like the same thing that Joe goes about the government block cheese?
Yeah, the cheese. That's where the cheese part of it comes in. Yeah.
All right, yeah. And the
I'm
women's
sorry,
Karen's
Becky.
feminist movement.
Okay, so how do you weaponize
Yeah,
cheese?
basically.
Like, put little bombs inside it. How do you weaponize cheese? I'm curious.
I told you already. It's a negotiation chip.
Do you know how many people are lactose intolerant? Can't have cheese.
I'm gone. I'll be back.
He's a little too drunk to understand how negotiations work.
Plus, he's never been at a party with a cheese platter.
Yeah, I mean, you could characterize it to make it sound really dumb, right? You could go, you know, we're in the trade negotiations with France, and our opening move is, if you don't eat the cheese, we're going to destroy your economy. And they go, well, don't destroy our economy. Please don't destroy it. How about we give you stuff instead of getting rid of the tariff on cheese? And we go, you know what? Okay, you give us other things we want. You can keep your tariff on cheese. And then we perpetually make it so they have to keep the tariff. So they keep on giving us shit we want. Because if they eat the cheese, their economy collapses. It sounds really stupid when you summarize it like that, but that's literally how it's working.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Pixie. I've got to. So, are you saying if you make the French eat cheese, that will make the economy collapse? You know, the French kind of, I don't know if they invented cheese, but they're very good at it. They can kind of do it by themselves.
Yeah, they just won't have any. They won't have a big chunk of their agricultural market if they get rid of all the agricultural tariffs that they need to have to protect themselves from us.
Yeah, no, that's not the Americans. That's the European Union that does the tariffs on the French farm.
Yeah. Well, now it's the EU. It used to be the individual countries, but yeah, same deal.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with Americans.
No, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, they're the one that do
It's the
the
European
tariffs.
Union. No, it's the European Union.
Yeah, they do the tariffs.
Yes, so it's nothing to do with the Americans, is it?
No, but who are they tariffing? It's the Americans.
The European Union gives money to the French farmers to make the cheese that they make. It has nothing to do with the Americans, as far as
I'm sure they give them some cheese.
I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Yeah, they give them some cheese or some money. You know why they're giving them some money now?
But do the Americans give them any money?
No, we don't give
Right,
them.
then it's nothing to do with the Americans, is it?
No, it is.
If they don't give them any money, how is it? Why is it anything to do with the Americans?
Because through trade negotiations over and over again, we've whittled away at the dairy tariffs. Right. And the way we did it is we didn't really get rid of the tariffs. What we did is we said, hey, look, allow us to import X amount of cheese, just some cheese. Eat the cheese a little bit. And that would have partially destroyed the dairy industry in the EU.
In France.
So what the EU did was they were forced to subsidize the dairy industry. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it anymore.
So nowadays, it's all to do with the European Union and not America.
No, that's the only reason why they're doing it is because of America.
But I mean, nowadays, Americans could have started the whole problem, which let's face it, they normally do start every fucking problem. But nowadays it's just the European Union what does it, and America has no say in it whatsoever, do they?
We are the only reason they do it.
That might be the initial reason they do it. I'm just saying
No,
nowadays.
it's still currently the reason.
Currently,
Yeah, we've bullied them into eating some of the cheese, so now they have to subsidize it.
you bullied the French into eating cheese.
Well, the EU, right? It's the EU now. The French was just an example. But yeah, the EU. We literally did.
He's trolling me now. The Americans bullied the French into eating cheese.
Yeah. Some of our cheese, you eat it. Eat some of the cheese or give us other things we want, or we'll destroy your economy.
Now this sounds all cheesy.
You don't have to bully the French into eating cheese.
You do have to bully the French into eating our cheese. Because eating our cheese destroys their cheese.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that is fucking ridiculous.
Right, I agree. It is when you summarize it, you go, that's an insane thing to do.
Yeah, to bully the French into eating cheese.
But it works. That's why we do it.
And then you make it into a staple into people's dietary programs. They must have the cheese forever. 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 The cheese tax, gotta have the cheese tax.
So the French, are you saying the French buy cheese from America?
They do a little bit more now than they did before because we bullied them into eating it.
But you said before that the economy would be destroyed if it wasn't for the Americans.
No, other way
So
around.
you're saying you influenced it very, very slightly.
Yeah, we've bullied them into allowing a certain amount of cheese into their country from us.
So when you said it would destroy their economy, you were wrong. You're saying
No, I wasn't wrong.
You've influenced their economy very, very slightly.
No, I wasn't wrong. That's why they started getting subsidies, so it wouldn't fall apart.
Right, so you're saying America both could have destroyed their economy, but now they're influencing it very, very, very slightly.
No, because they're not going to drop the tariffs all the way. It would be stupid.
But you're saying nowadays America is influencing the cheese. Wow, this is a ridiculous argument. You're saying that nowadays America is influencing the French cheese industry very, very, very slightly. But before they were controlling it completely, and it
no, they weren't controlling it. They weren't controlling it all before.
No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is we use their tariffs against us to say, hey, this isn't fair. Even though the tariff is fair, because without the tariff, we could bottom out their economy, right?
So you could.
So when we say we don't like the tariffs, that's not fair. And then we use that to bully them into giving us what we want. In France's case, they took some of our cheese.
So you're saying that you could destroy France's economy through cheese?
If the EU dropped the tariffs on our agricultural products, the EU would no longer grow any of their food.
Because if they drop the tariffs on our agricultural products, right? then our agricultural products would be cheaper on your shelf than your own, because your own is like, we can produce it cheaper than you can produce it. It costs you more to make it than it costs us to make it.
So you're claiming that you could destroy France's economy by cheese?
Well, what
Without
happened?
tariffs. Yeah.
Yeah, if they did other times. Imagine,
As your point.
imagine roughly 17% of the EU's economy just disappearing overnight.
Free cheese.
Well, cheese and other agricultural products, but cheese is the main one.
Milk, cheese, just corn,
Dairy.
soybeans. Yeah.
It's really dairy, but I say cheese because it's funnier.
I'm not saying that I'm right. I just don't understand. I don't understand how America could destroy France's economy by selling
let me put it this way.
cheese
Let me put
or
it this way.
getting cheese
If
from
my
them.
friend lives in a rainy, overcast place,
It
right?
seems odd, is all I'm saying.
And I live in a pretty temperate climate where I get a good amount of rain, but it's
Mm.
not always rainy and cold, right? I get a lot of sunshine. I get a lot of that. I get all that, right? So I live in a very good place, and my friend doesn't live in a very good place. But we both are doing the same thing. Now, because I live in a good place, it doesn't cost me very much to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because she lives in a less favorable place, she has to spend more money. She has to spend more money on the upkeep. She has to spend more money on her animals. She has to make sure, all her animals stay out of the rain. She has to go, and she has to pay for a lot of stuff that I don't pay for. So when we both put the same product on the shelf, my product is going to cost way less, because I had way less upfront cost to make that product, right?
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
So if I ask to put my stuff in her store, she's going to say, yeah, but I'm going to mark it up because I don't want you to kill my own business.
I'm just wondering how much of the French economy is based on cheese.
Like it's not that. Look, think about it like this: if they get rid of the agricultural tariffs, and so they just our agriculture just takes over everything there, right? They lose about. Okay, I'm not. That's right in the middle of my thought. Just wait a minute.
Arguments.
Yeah,
You
just wait
said
a minute.
cheese. You said it was based on cheese.
Yeah, cheese is the main thing. I say cheese, but it's actually dairy. It's actually dairy. I say cheese because it's funny, but just wait a minute. If they let us do that, Wild Heart, just wait a minute. If they let us do that, what happens is they lose 17% of their economy overnight. When they lose 17% of their economy overnight, when they lose 17% of their economy, Wild Heart.
Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. So
yeah, when they lose that amount of economy overnight, there's a ton of people that lose their job. The people that lose their job can't buy things. The majority of the things they buy come from within the EU. Right? So then the businesses they buy from lose money and collapse. You can't just have a large chunk of your economy disappear. It affects the whole thing.
And I know what you're saying, but I can't believe that 17% of the French economy is based on cheese.
It's not. I say cheese because it's funnier, but it's dairy and agricultural products. Right?
Yeah,
dairy is the main thing with Europe, but it's also meat, and it's also soybeans, and it's also corn.
So let's say 15%. I can't believe that 15% is based on cheese.
It's not.
Wild. He said 3 times now. Pay attention to the sentence, because he said it like 3 or 4 times now. He said it's not actually based on cheese. He says it that way because it's funnier. It's actually based on dairy and agriculture products.
Yeah. So what? Can someone find out what is the actual percentage of the French economy what is based on cheese? That's what I need.
We can figure it out. We could look it up, but
yeah.
Our agricultural product.
Well, you did say,
17%.
But you did say the main part of it was cheese.
Well, the main part of it's dairy. I say cheese because it's funnier just to say eat the cheese.
Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's fine. But can we actually find out what actual percentage of the French economy is based on cheese?
Oh, we can. I'm not going. I'm not going to because just cheese isn't important. Like, and the figures you look up
Well,
for
that's fine. I'm gonna fucking do it.
the figures you look up for like the amount of economy that's reliant on agricultural or the loss of agricultural products, you have to take into
No,
account
I'm not.
that.
I'm just gonna go by cheese
Well,
because it's funny.
I'm talking.
What
Wait, real quick. I'm talking to
percentage?
everyone, not just you.
Oh,
You
sorry.
have to take into account that you can't like
Oh,
half feed a cow.
You can. You will be hungry, but you can have.
Well, you just after
It's
2
not
weeks,
just
you just won't have a cow,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
right?
but you
So,
can have the cow. Like
so even if
logically.
you can grow some of your own stuff, what I'm saying is if you lose so much of it, it all goes.
No, I'm genuinely curious. What percentage of the French economy is?
Is
What would
cheese.
you put based on cheese or dependent on cheese?
What?
I'm gonna put based on cheese.
I don't know if you could find just that statistic, but if you look up how much cheese does France produce, dollar amount, right, or euro amount, and then look up their total economic output, their GDP, that would give you the percentage.
They do actually eat a lot of cheese. It turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, French. I should have guessed that. Cheese consumption by country. Global cheese. Global cheese.
Like it's actually,
You're right about cheese being funny.
Yeah.
Global cheese man.
in fact, America agricultural products is one. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the main reasons why the EU was formed in the first place, as a trading bloc. That's why they're a protectionist bloc.
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah.
got together so we couldn't bully them as much.
A cheese block. A block of cheese. A big block of cheese.
See, just remember that. You ask, why is this European country not standing up to US? It's because we can destroy you with as little as our cheese.
It's all the cheese. All the wars, all the things that were going on, all the
This is why America has
all
caves.
the cheese.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we have 1.5 billion pounds of strategic cheese reserve.
The caves.
In
In
caves.
No. What the fuck is strategic cheese?
It's cheese that we use for strategy.
And we stored them in caves, Wild.
You got your
Peas
normal
through cheese.
You got your normal cheese, and then you got your strategic cheese, and
Yeah.
you got your economic cheese.
No, the strategic cheese is the economic cheese. That's the cheese in the caves.
Yeah.
They're in the caves, Wild.
Yeah. You put tariffs on us, we'll stock up a bunch of cheese so we'll destroy you.
Yeah. You put tariffs on us, we'll make a shitload of cheese and stuff.
Yeah. So that if you ever get rid of the tariffs, we will destroy you. And then in return, you're going to give us other shit to put up with the tariffs.
That's American logic for you. You put
Yeah.
tariffs on us, we'll make a shitload of cheese and store it in caves.
Yeah. We force other countries to start a tariff war with us. And then we complain about them starting it with us, even though we instigated it. We did it without a tariff, but we gave them no choice but to have a tariff war with us. It's all because of Reagan, and then Clinton. There's
Maybe it's all because of the Karens that wouldn't let him throw it in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, those were probably some Karens too. But the Karen thing is mostly just the butterfly. Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Wild is really amused right now.
Yeah. Like
You put Tyrus on us, we'll make a shitload of cheese and so it cares. And
I can make it funnier, Wild Heart.
America.
I can make it funnier.
Fucking idiot.
Because we wanted to give women the right to vote and we wanted to make sure children didn't work in factories. We now force you to tear up our cheese so we don't destroy you.
That is even funnier, actually.
Ow. Ow, that hurts. Yeah, you put tariffs on us, we'll make a shitload of cheese and
Our
store it
baby Yoda.
in America and not sell it to anyone. Nice work, Americans, you fucking idiots.
What did he? I'm trying to read what you said to our baby Yoda. That Wild Heart is a hoot if you get him started. What's the?
Nice joke.
I don't know.
This is so weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Cheese.
geopolitics.
And you're on my stream. I don't know what you expected.
Yeah, geopolitics is simultaneously the funniest thing and also the most dangerous thing.
No, I'm just saying that Americans,
Cheese.
in order to get back at people for putting tariffs on them, made a shitload of cheese and sold it in caves in America and didn't sell it to anyone. Come on, you gotta admit you're fucking idiots.
I don't know. We're the ones controlling your cheese.
Me. It's not my fault. I didn't make the rules.
We're the ones controlling your country with cheese.
You fucking idiots. Let's make a shitload of cheese and store it in caves in America and not sell it to anyone.
The women in my house are being destroyed by people on the internet.
That'll work. That'll work. I'm gonna die.
Okay, I think I've had enough for the American dominating the world through cheese. There isn't much more to say about it.
It's never enough.
Went from the progressive era women's rights movement, prohibition, ice cream, now dominating the world with cheese.
Switch to ice.
Yep, cheese.
This is why you got to be careful what you want the government to do, because it never goes the way you think it's going to go.
So it's one of those be careful what you wish for genie type of things, right? Like you wish for $1 million, all of a sudden you're arrested by the FBI for robbery.
Yeah, it was like, you ask for $1 million and he teleports you to the bottom of the ocean where there's a treasure chest.
Jesus. Yeah, that would be a shitty thing to do. Or even better or worse, he teleports you vault bank, and you die and then they discover you. Or you get arrested. There's so many ways you could take that. So many ways you could. Jesus. Genies.
Let's see. Yeah, so people are saying change topic.
Okay, well the topic is raccoons are awesome, especially albinos.
No, they're little disgusting creatures that nature hates.
Well, when you're right, sir.
Yeah, that's why the sun tries to kill you.
Yes.
You just wanted
Hey, you know
No,
what?
I
It's
don't
true.
really mean that.
Okay, they
I
should
don't.
hate
I don't
you.
really
Just
mean
one-
that. I'm just joking.
I know you don't mean it. I know.
The
You
look
don't mean
of Midnight agreed with you. He's an albino. You said albino. Creatures of nature hates, and Midnight agrees with you.
Let's see.
He's not-
Sea Science says what was the outcome of the peace talks in Saudi Arabia. I don't know what the outcome was, but I'm going to take just a wild guess and say nothing happened. It's really hard for someone to step into the middle of a hot war and go, "Look at me, I'm Orange Man. Stop killing each other."
Oh, fucking hell. Okay.
Think of that about that Wild Heart. Next time you go into what is Walmart called over there?
Asda.
Yeah. Next time you
Yeah.
walk into Asda and buy some cheese, just understand that that's how we control you.
It's not because I buy French cheese. I buy, blue cheese, which has a mold on, and that's French. It has to be French. It has to come from like Stilton. It has to come from the town called Stilton. Otherwise, it's not Stilton. Yeah, so it's not French. It's not American. It's English.
Yeah, but we don't control you by giving you the cheese.
You control us by keeping the cheese and fucking get
Yeah,
rid
we
of
control you by allowing you to keep our cheese away. We've built a prison of cheese around you, and now you're trapped.
Yeah, you don't control anyone by actually giving cheese or selling cheese to anyone. You just control people by making cheese and putting it in cave in America.
Yeah, we control them
That's
by
how you
hoarding
control
cheese in caves.
Yeah, literally. We control them with cheese a lot like how we control people with nuclear weapons.
Weaponized.
It's just an economic nuke instead of a literal physical nuke.
Cheese. We got nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, like Slack likes it. It's a prison of cheese with a moat of milk.
He's so amused by this.
That's okay. I mean, even though it's, I guess, technically serious, I think it's funny.
It is kind of funny.
The same way we own the world by using nuclear weapons, yeah, you use weaponized cheese.
Oh, and let me know when you want to stop because I can tease the next weird thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was hoping Odin would come back to finish his conversation with you. But if you've got to go, that is okay. So you can tease the next thing whenever you are ready.
Okay. We have. Well, I've probably talked about this before somewhere, but I know a lot of people haven't heard of it, so I'm going to tease it. If you want to have birth control, you have to have abortion, because if you don't, you will have a spike in crime in your country. There you go.
That sounds interesting.
I'll explain that next time.
Next time on Pixie
All right.
Ball Z.
All right, that sounds fun. I am probably going to do zero research like I did this time because that was fun. But yeah, that is interesting. Okay. Does Odin know that's the next topic?
I don't think so. Oh, Dean is in the chat now, though.
Oh,
He's still eating.
hey, Batman. Okay, well, if
We can
kinda-
still hang out. It's just, how much
Okay.
longer can we go on about cheese?
that's right.
All
Exactly.
day.
So the next episode will be about that interesting topic, and we're gonna have fun with that. Well, I don't know if it's gonna be the next stream, maybe not, but the next Pixie Duster bullshit stream.
That's good. That's a good name.
Thank you. Oh, Batman came up with that name. Actually, that is Batman's title. So
My arm is broke.
That's a good title.
Well, broken, I should say. I think Gio made. No. It was Victor who made this edit.
I got it.
thank you.
I got the title though. With because you got bullshit at Pixie Dust, but like the operating title is condom induced abortions.
Oh, wow.
All right, I'm writing that down now.
Condom. I'm gonna think about that.
Okay, that will be the next one.
Pixie, think about it. Think about it.
Yeah, no, I thought about it. It's fine. Why? What? You think it's a little too controversial or something?
Condom induced abortion.
Yeah.
How could a condom induce?
You have to watch for next time to know.
Next time on Pixie Ballsy. I know I said it already, but it bears repeating.
Like it's always.
Oh my god! I just like the Victor by drawing that Pixie Ballsy and making making it in the style of Dragon Ball.
You know, that was one anime I never did like.
Well, I mean, why?
Why? Because it was the same bullshit every episode. Piccolo and what's his name hold off till what's his name shows up and saves the day. Next time, same thing. Next time, same thing. Next time, same thing. Fuck
That
it.
is really.
That.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand how someone who hasn't really watched it would have that impression. Like,
I watched it growing up. That's exactly what it is. Everyone fights, barely survives, then Goku time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure. But at the same time,
every
there's story
episode.
elements-
It was
There's
stupid.
story
I hated
elements.
it.
There's different story elements.
No, Naruto had a good story element, and that one actually progressed with its audience. I loved Claymore, still my favorite. Still pissed off there's only 20-something episodes, and they never
Yeah.
finished it. Bleach was pretty good.
Excuse me.
There were a lot of good ones, but Dragon Ball Z was never on my list. Never. Hated that one. Hated it.
Well, I don't know. Like I do kind of see that, but at the same time, I still like it because I don't know. I guess it's an acquired taste. I mean, they did say he watched it growing up, so.
Oh,
I
my
don't know
brother
whether-
loved it. My brother loved it. I hated it.
See, I can't go with you, Midnight, because you like Q from Star Trek.
What?
You can't.
What's
You-
wrong with
you
liking you from Star Trek? So do you.
No, I like Q the character. Q is the best character in television that's never had a good episode.
Okay, so you're saying Tapestry wasn't a good episode.
No episode with Q in it was good.
Okay, yeah, that one Tapestry was definitely good with that one. I mean, so you wouldn't call when he introduced the Enterprise to the Borg a good Q episode?
No, because it was entirely unnecessary to have him for that. Right? He was just a MacGuffin in that episode. Essentially, it was just.
Okay. So you would definitely agree that Q in Deep Space Nine was useless, and they only appeared once.
Yeah, the episodes only get worse as the longer the character's around.
I mean, I haven't.
On paper, that character should be amazing.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, on paper, anything that has to do with that character should be amazing. But what they do is instead of making an episode like exploring his like omnipotent power, what they do is they take these Shakespearean actors and go, "Hey, do you want to play Robin Hood on Star Trek for an episode?" And that's
they did that
stupid.
once.
That's just stupid.
Yeah. Okay. What about the episode when Q becomes mortal?
Yeah, that's probably the best one. It's still not.
See, there you go.
They don't go very far with it.
Well, no, but okay. What about the very first episode, Encounter at Farpoint?
That's the one where he introduces the Borg, right?
No, I think it's Q who when he introduces the Borg. Farpoint is basically the very first episode. You know, where he first reveals himself and he judges humanity and all that.
No, I think that's the same episode.
No, Encounter at Farpoint is literally the first episode.
Yeah.
Yes, but he introduces the Borg. No, he introduces the
Oh.
Borg in either season 2 or 3. I'm forgetting right now.
Well, it's not 3. I'm trying to think. I could have swore it was the same episode, but I could be wrong. It's been forever since I watched the first.
Oh yeah, but I'm telling you, if you look up Encounter at Farpoint, it's literally the first episode.
Yeah, I know that. I actually know that that's the name of the episode.
Yeah.
When the episode starts, it's like big blue letters on the screen. Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah.
They designed the first episode like the original series. And it's just in your face what it is.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it was either episode 2 or 3 when they considered the worst episode of the series. This is season 1, where these like primitive aliens or whatever, they kidnap what the hell is her name? She's the security officer on the Enterprise. God damn it, I can't remember her name. They kidnap her because the man is like, oh my god, she's feisty. I want to make her my wife, and everyone fucking hated that episode. Like, what the fuck?
What are we?
Star Trek.
What are we gonna be doing for the next episode, sir? What did
right.
you suggest? I just came back and.
Oh, for the teaser
Oh wait,
thing?
I just remembered. I don't have a problem with the title. Serb doesn't have a problem with the title. Batman might.
Oh,
Wait, what?
yeah. We don't have to watch economic videos specifically on the subject I want to tease, right? Just
Okay.
the weird thing I wanted to tease and then explain in the next episode was how if you want to have birth control, you have to have abortions, because if you don't, you have a giant spike in crime.
Wow.
So, high birth control is necessary for crime reduction.
No, the other way around. Birth control is responsible for crime increase.
Birth control is responsible for the increase in crime.
Giant spike.
If you don't have ready and available abortion, yeah.
A giant, massive spike.
The subtitle I said we could use was condom-induced abortions.
Which I think is a good choice.
Condom-induced abortion?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Condom-induced abortion, yeah.
You know,
we can do it. We can go with that.
Subtitle.
Okay. I just want you to be okay with everything too, Batman, because you probably have more. You're not as flippant as I am. Put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'll actually write a little script so I can be more precise in how I'm explaining the thing. I was doing the cheese wars off the top of my head.
Do you want me to do find like a small video to kind of get into the whole thing?
You
Or
could
do you just want to
probably.
like do a host?
I'm not so sure you could find much on that because that's something that's like that hovers around in like economist circles. Because it was
That's
it was
interesting.
economists that figured it
Oh.
out.
Got you.
It's not out there a lot. But I guess who knows? It could be out there. I haven't looked for it, but I haven't seen it.
I'll check and see, and I'll let you know just in case. Pixie, there is a anime that I highly recommend, and because it's so good, I would actually like to watch it with you.
Which one?
It's called Free Rent.
I like Free Run. I recommend Free Run too.
It is
Yeah. Hey, can I join in on
beautifully
that?
written.
Well, I'm
I
always
will
blind,
watch
obviously.
it. Okay, I will watch it with you if you either watch Claymore or Silo with me.
Been there, done that.
Well,
Okay,
both.
then we're good.
I watched Claymore like 100 times, the whole
Have you
damn
watched
thing.
Silo? Have you seen Silo?
Yes, and I read
Okay.
the manga for Claymore from start to finish like at least 3 times.
I loved Claymore. I was so upset.
It was so messed up. I think I got like to episode 18 and 19, but I never finished it.
Oh, I love
Can-
Claymore.
can-
And my favorite character in Naruto was Itachi.
Can I just say I will have to rule myself out of that because I'm an adult.
Okay.
Oh, get over yourself.
And
Wow.
Gaara. I liked Gaara a lot too, but my favorite was Itachi.
I stopped watching
Yeah, he's a
cartoons
pretty
at
good character.
because I grew up.
I don't know why
Pixie,
I liked Gaara and Itachi, but I did.
I think Free Ren is it's one of the few animes that are like just really, really well written and really well produced.
Yeah.
See, I like that Naruto didn't start out that way, but ended up that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I remember when somebody first started getting me to watch it, like I actually could not stomach it. I was like, this is the most retarded thing ever. Why are you making me watch this? But the more you watch it, like the characters and the storyline grows with its audience.
Look, I will
right?
give
Yeah.
Naruto for having one of the greatest characters in it, Rock Lee. Okay, that
He was
that-
not
that-
my favorite. But he was a good character. Yes,
Yeah.
but he was not my favorite. But I guess because you start out with him when he's like what, like 10 or 12, and you see
Yeah.
everything through like a 10 or 12-year-old perspective, right? Just like I think that's why I like Itachi so much, is because like when you first see Itachi, you think he's like the bad guy, right? He's part of the Akashi, all that. Like he is a bad guy. And then you find out like he slaughtered his whole clan except the brother, right? Except Sasuke.
They're just like children.
Like
Oh,
all
sorry,
of that.
I
Like
wasn't
you just think he's like evil, and then you find out that everything he did was
Was for the sake
under
of the village
well, it
and
was
his
for the
brother.
sake of the village. Well, no, and well, he betrayed his village for his brother. He was supposed to kill all of them, including his brother. He became a fugitive because he couldn't kill his brother, but he made his last act to make his brother absolutely hate him. And then, even though he knew he was dying, he took pills to stay alive long enough to let his brother be the one to kill him, because he knew that hating him would make his brother strong.
Oh. Wow.
You know,
Yep.
I want to make possibly a hot take here. So I'm just warning y'all in advance. I can't take conflict. How do we get past conflict? Move faster, punch harder. Getting bored? Okay, mystery box twist. I can't do that anymore.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So would you rather have to do the whole Takketsu? Is that what you want? Takketsu. I think here Naruto is very good on that.
Hey,
Well-
Itachi had a really good story. Okay, to be fair, I didn't finish. I did fall off about the time the Great Wars started.
Dude, you should see
Okay.
the payoff for that. The payoff for the Sasuke Hitachi story. It's pretty damn good.
But I do know who everybody ends up with. I do kind of know the end of it though, because my brother still watches it, and then he watched what's the second one, Baruto.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
Boruto's trash.
That's what he
Okay.
said. He said he didn't get far into it, just far enough into it to tell me all the couples. I was mad when what's his name died, Asuma. I was mad when Asuma died.
Yeah, a
I
lot
do
of
want to
people.
bring up. I do want to bring up another another anime, whether you might like or not.
Well,
Hunter
I mean-
Hunter is definitely good.
Well, I mean,
So is My Hero Academia. Well, I
Super
like it
Much
anyway.
watches both. She cosplayed from My Hero Academia. You know the girl that has like the headphone jacks on her ears?
Yeah, I forget her name right now,
Yeah.
but yes.
Super Munchkin cosplayed her.
That's
And
pretty
who did
cool.
she cosplay regarding Hunter Hunter?
I don't think she. No, I don't. She didn't. I think the one you're
Oh.
thinking of is she cosplayed from Black Butler. She did CL when CL was a girl. When CL was dressed up as a girl in the pink frilly
Right,
dress.
but she does watch both My Hero Academia and Hunter Hunter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
God, I love
I
Hunter
don't think
Hunter.
she's done a. I don't think she's done a cosplay from that. She did ask me to do Big Sister, Little Sister from Visit. She's really into. She's right now. She's really into. It starts with an A. Dang it.
They're really undefined.
Arcane? Is it Arcane?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I thought it was just.
Yeah, she likes
Arcane
Arcane.
is pretty good. I didn't get super into Arcane, but from what I watched, I enjoyed it.
She likes when they grow up better.
Yeah.
And she
Can-
likes so Powder turns into Jinx and Jinx turns into there's Powder and Jinx. Jinx turns into what is her name? Anyway, she likes the older versions of them.
Can I just say that the villains don't get enough credit? And I think Naruto has like one of the best supervillains ever in the story. Not necessarily because of like the hype that they build up with Madara, right? It's like when you actually see him on the battlefield to kind of demonstrate how strong this guy is. He
Is that the
takes on
sand
a
guy?
whole army. What?
Is that the sand guy?
No.
I
No,
forget what it-
he's the one that can Toby. He also calls himself Toby. He's the one
Yeah.
in like the orange mask that covers up all of his face except one eye, and he can like go in and out of dimensions or whatever.
God damn
Right,
it! I don't want to spoil it.
Well, okay. I'm gonna bring up something else. Bleach.
That's not Bleach. Bleach is really good as well. Even though I don't. I mean, I know the ending of Bleach, so you know. But
I mean, I'm still stuck at that. I'm still stuck at the arc after after they rescue Rukia. Like I cannot get past the fucking Banto arc or whatever the fuck it's called.
I think
Just please-
Naruto also had some really sympathetic opponents or bad
Oh
guys.
yeah, definitely.
I mean, they
Yeah.
had the typical ones that you just couldn't stand, like the guy with the broadsword. I can't remember his name, but Kisame. I didn't like Kisame, but
yeah.
but they had really sympathetic ones like Kimimaru.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
If you guys ever run into any newer anime that, let's put it this way, I can't watch an anime anymore that makes One Punch Man good. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay, One Punch Man is good. The reason why it's good is because all these animes you're naming.
Yeah.
One Punch Man started as a parody, and they took on a life of its own.
Like
One-
Cowboy Bebop is good because it's
Yeah.
not Punch Man harder.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, what about Outlaw Star?
Lelouch,
What about Outlaw Star?
Lelouch,
God, that was a good one.
Code Geass,
Get sick
the
of it.
Lelouch Rebellion is excellent writing and a lot of action, and not everything is punch man win and like power levels and stuff like that. A lot of it is just straight up strategy, political maneuvering, a little bit of magic stuff. Like,
But an anime called One Punch Man should not work because he'd win every fucking fight. Yet there's just like twists and turns that it takes.
But like I'm thinking like these like Cowboy Bebop, right? Ghost of the Shell, or even like littler things like Spice and Wolf,
yeah.
right?
Well, what if
Has
it was
anyone
like
watched Nana?
do you no, but do you consider Claymore one of those?
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
It's attractive woman kill demon.
But yes and no, because I think the part of it that's interesting is that in order to be the woman that kills the demon, you have to become like you have to take the demon into yourself.
Yeah.
You have to become part demon. And part of fighting, right, is every time you have to push your limits. Every time you have to push your limits and you have to unleash the strength of that demon in you, right? Every time you do
There's a
that,
risk.
you push yourself closer to becoming a demon itself. That's why in their swords they all write down the name of the claymore of another claymore. They write down the name of another claymore and it's in their swords. And it's because they know without a shadow of a doubt one day they will unlock that too many times and they will become a demon. And the name in their sword is the person that's supposed to come kill them before they turn. If they turn, they're an even bigger threat than the thing they're already fighting.
Well,
Yeah,
look,
that's what
I'm not
happened to
saying
them.
there's a reason
It
why
was
I'm not
awesome.
saying these animes are bad. They're not bad because they're entertaining. I'm not saying they're not entertaining. But what you described is punch bad guy harder, getting bored, mystery box twist.
Wait, what do you mean by
Why they do it?
I guess I don't know because you find that all of that out so early. Like all of everything I know is in under 20 episodes. Or everything I said is in under 20 episodes. There's only like 23 episodes ever made.
What
Can
do you
I-
mean by mystery box?
Yeah,
That's
it's by Claymore is by no means the worst user of that
But
strategy,
you would
right?
you would put it in like the bottom of that category or like mid of that category just to get a reference.
Well, actually, I would put it probably in the higher tier of that category because all these animes you're naming, there's a reason why these there's the animes that do this that go on for like 500 episodes because that's all they have to do. Punch Man harder,
Yeah.
mystery box twist. Punch Man harder, mystery box twist.
See, but I was always more interested in like the story between her and the kid.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, right? It only goes on for a few episodes. It doesn't go on for 150 episodes.
Yeah.
So
still don't know what the hell this mystery box
there's
is.
an actual story to it that doesn't get reduced down to a thin gruel between Punch Man harder.
So Hunter
Yeah.
x Hunter is
I
one
love
of the
you.
few animes that gets a good balance when it comes to that. Like it's literally not just about how strong you are, right? It half the time it doesn't even have to do with your power. It's just straight up strategy when you're fighting.
Yeah.
And I like that they take a more grounded approach. Like there are situations where like dudes have to straight up like run for their lives. But I think the thing that really made me put Hunter x Hunter in like my top 5 was when they deconstructed the main character and humanized him. And when I say humanized, he 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 experienced so much grief to the point where he just said, "Fuck it." And he
Yeah.
basically he basically decided to throw away everything and just focus on one thing only, which is to annihilate a particular character. And he
Yes,
didn't
and
just
it was
do
so
it
awesome.
he
Sorry.
he didn't even just do it, by just powering up and then just attacking the character. There's this particular buildup where he says, "Listen, I need you to fix this problem," and he sits patiently and he waits. He's not even like taunting, but the other character is trying to, do the job, right? But they're trying to like plot at the same time, and they don't know what the fuck he's thinking,
There's a
right?
darkness to that. Yes, it's so
Like
awesome.
it was a really, really dark couple of episodes, but once she realizes that she cannot fix the problem and she thought she was going to kill him, he annihilates her in the most satisfying ways I've ever seen a main character do to a villain. But he had to basically sacrifice everything, like his
Yeah.
morals, everything gets thrown through the window.
His
But it is for a
lifespan and
good
his
reason.
powers, like he lost his powers. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Waldo.
his goals, his,
The-
his life goals, his family goals, like all
What's
of
the
that just gets thrown throughout the window.
what's
Yep.
the weird one? What's the weird one where something happens? There's like this light or whatever. I don't know. Something happens, and then everybody is like turned into like
Dr.
stone.
Stone.
Or
Dr.
that
Stone.
one.
I still have to figure it out how the fuck that happened because I was watching the series and I'm like in like season 3, but I still don't know what what causes the petrification, and I refuse to look it up.
5 Americans arguing about
I don't.
cartoons.
Okay, I haven't gotten very far in that one either. But I would
Can you
think that
mute
that
him,
one is
please?
maybe one with less fighting, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched Dr. Stone. I'm waiting until they come out
Oh,
with
my
the next season before I go in and start binging that because it looks very interesting.
It's a very good series. Yeah, it's a very, very accurate in the way it portrays things. That's all I'll say.
Ooh, do you know another anime that I think both Pixie and Serb will thoroughly enjoy? Freaking Made in Abyss. Jesus
Ooh, yeah.
Christ, dude. That one is heavy. Emotional toll, writing, not just merely being powerful than everyone else and you know, punch man win. No. No, it's far from that.
Also,
But
you need to finish your talk with Serb here in a minute because I was liking that earlier.
wait, what?
We
The
were
one
Remember
talking
you were talking. Yeah, you were talking with Serb and
something about
someone.
Jamaica, and
Yeah.
then someone kept on interrupting you when you were trying to say something about it.
Um
Very well.
so I was talking about the Jamaica's economy where so I took an interest to find out what was the reason why the Jamaican dollar kept falling as hard as it was. And a lot of the stuff that Serb said kind of coincide with what Jamaica did, where it went from a country that has like some of the most fertile lands in the world, right, where we produce all of our food locally, and then out of nowhere, they started to import a bunch of American chicken, beef, grain, a bunch of shit, and the farming in the country took a downturn, and we started to sell out all of the beach land for like nothing. Um, and basically they basically made it so that the country is like completely dependent on the global economy for sustenance, and it kept borrowing money because it wasn't exporting anything anymore,
Right,
despite
so
having bauxite, gypsum, and a bunch of other minerals. So the country has a lot of um, resources to sustain itself, right? when it comes to food and stuff like that. It has great soil. It has, all of that stuff. And the government, for whatever reason, decided that they were going to accept the U.S. and Brazil's or offer to import a lot of that stuff at cheaper prices, which basically killed the farming industry in the country, including the dairy industry, because like Jamaicans loved milk, right? And cheese and stuff like that. We have our own like kind of specific flavor of cheese. Um, but that whole thing kind of got killed when they decided to start importing a lot of their produce.
So you did completely ignore my question. I thought you were trying to answer my question, but you did just completely ignore it. That's right. That's right.
Wild. We just went through this. You interrupted their conversation. He was not obligated to stop in the middle of his thought.
No, he did stop, and then I asked a question
He stopped to let you speak because you.
because I wanted to. Am I not allowed to speak?
Of course, you're allowed to speak, but that doesn't mean that he isn't allowed to finish his conversation.
Right. So when I ask a question, everyone can just completely ignore me. That's fine. No.
Depends on
Nobody
when you
ignored
ask.
you. I answered you, and they continued their conversation. And not everything needs to be a fight, Wild. I don't know why you want to fight about everything right now.
No, it's fine, come on.
Okay, Serb, your response to Batman.
Oh yeah, well I was just gonna say, you probably had tariffs on our food, right? Our produce, and we said give us something or eat the cheese, and you guys chose to eat the cheese. And
Basically,
yeah, it's almost always worse to eat the cheese.
I mean, not only that, right? We stopped trading with our dollars because, so believe it or not, the Cayman dollar and the Jamaican dollar were like pretty close in terms of like value, right? So, but the Cayman Islands decided to take advantage of the fact that um, they wanted to be like a haven for how should I put this? For everyone to go there and basically dump their money that they don't want to pay taxes on.
Yeah.
Jamaica had an opportunity to do that. The people fought against it for whatever reason. Well, one particular party fought against it, but they ended up putting their money into the Cayman Islands for whatever reason. Anyways, um, and so I guess the deal was that they would start trading with the U.S. dollar and stop using their own money to trade. So it's not like the dollar, Jamaican dollar, didn't have any value behind it, right? It did, but they completely shrink the value by trading with the U.S. dollar. And since no one now wants our dollar, that reduces its value, right? Especially considering we don't have much backing it, because everything we do is all of the things that we need as a country that we could produce ourselves, we decide to import it. Now, as a result, what happened was that they gave a lot of companies in the US and some in Europe the opportunity to buy up all of the beach land around the country.
Hmm.
And now there is not a crazy amount of beach, like open beach land left that locals can go to go fishing, and to go hang out and chill like they used to do back in the day.
Ignorant American fox. Oh, sorry, I thought it was Mrs. So,
Yeah, well, we come to you, we want a thing, right? And you have the choice: eat the cheese or give us the thing.
Yep.
And if you go, well, we eat the cheese, we won't give you the thing. What happens is you get poor, and then when you get poor, we come back to you and go, hey, how about we do this thing we call investment, which is code for buying up all your shit because now you're poor.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Intelligent
Even
questions.
the national airport for the country, right? They basically set it up to where private companies wouldn't be able to come in initially to have their own airports, right? Okay, fine. So you have a nationalized airport. You run the nationalized airport poorly, right? And you said, you know what? We're going to sell we're going to make it public and we're going to sell shares. So they sell the shares, right, to get more funding, but they decided to actually not, follow the recommendations of the new part owners, right, which were Caribbean owners as well. And that didn't that didn't work out for them, so they had to, you know, buy out those shares again, and the shit went to it, the airline failed again, and then a South American company that owned a Caribbean company basically bought out the airline, and eventually they realized that because the dollar that's backing the airline is becoming more and more worthless, they decided to just liquidate the shit. So the country no longer has a quote unquote national airline, so to speak. So they're basically, but what's interesting is that the people, every single government that made all of those deals, every single one of them basically came out of office extremely, extremely rich.
Cunts.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was
And
Mrs.
it doesn't even have to, and it doesn't even have to be corruption. That's I know everyone goes to corruption, but simply understanding what that policy is going to do in the future gives you a huge economic advantage. You can take advantage of the economy changing.
Yep.
Right? So they leave rich because they know eating the cheese is going to make everyone else poor.
Yep. Exactly.
Fuck me.
So, when I was doing my research and I realized this, I was like during the whole stream, like in the back of my head, like all of this is like going through my brain and I'm like, fuck, this is exactly what happened. Exactly what happened.
I'm very rarely full of shit.
But I mean, it is what it is. But at this point, like, what are you going to do, right? Because when it came to the legalization of marijuana, right, which everyone wanted, people in the country, tourists wanted it, right? The government was basically going to allow for the growing of marijuana, right? But they would allow anyone to come in and grow marijuana. So just like the bauxite, right, where you have a company, a U.S. company, extract the fucking bauxite and basically sell the aluminum and make all of the fucking profit, while all they do is pay the country a shitty little fucking tax, right? They were going to basically do that. They were basically going to do that for marijuana and all of the land that was in the country until the people lost their shit and said, okay, maybe you should only make this local, or make it so the majority owner of any company that wants to grow and sell marijuana has to be majority owned by a Jamaican. Like if the people didn't say anything, the government would have allowed for corporations to come into the country, buy up all of the fucking fertile land, and grow weed and sell weed like crazy.
Yeah.
and the people would not
Be
benefit
Weed
from
Island.
it. No, I'm dead serious.
Yeah. No, I believe you. Yeah. You got opened up, and then the psychopaths, the immortal psychopaths, got to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it's not like they're coming in negotiating by themselves, right? They are negotiating with the strength of the U.S. government backing them. So
Yeah,
we
'cause
can tell them to go
they're
fuck
trying to make it.
themselves.
Yeah, they're trying to make a trade deal. Yeah, so they bring the government with them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but not like in the sense of okay, we're making a trade deal, so the government has to be involved. But it's in the sense of if you don't do this, we're gonna fuck you up type thing, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
incentivize the next administration to basically try to ruin your economy type thing. And I could definitely see that. But
And
now,
now you can't say fuck off because we feed you.
exactly. And we don't, and it's crazy because we do not fucking need the food. But for whatever reason, these people who allowed for this shit to happen, all of a sudden they're invested in these import companies,
Hmm.
right? They have shares in yeah, it's basically a wholesale sellout by government officials in the country.
Yeah, they had the knowledge of what was going to happen before the decision was even made.
Yeah.
That's why governments, a lot of the little
We're
governments,
going
don't
to
resist us.
wildleaf.
What you said,
He
Pixie?
muttered something. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh no. Okay.
It's like all he was doing was saying something bad about America every time. Every time we mention America. It's okay. I can emulate Wildheart. I'll just throw an ignorant America in there every once in a while.
I love. Anyways, this stream has been interesting.
But yeah, it's a situation like how do you go from being like a legitimate partner, like trade partner, because you weren't dependent on a particular country, to deciding to be dependent on a particular country, to now become a trading subordinate, if that's the correct term. It's so fucking
It's a good
stupid.
enough term. Describes what's going on. These little the governments of these little countries rarely ever resist because even without corruption, like without bribes,
Mhm.
right? They understand that they'll be rich. And their option is my country gets to be autarkic, right? Self-reliant, and I get to have this thankless job where half the population hates me, regardless of whatever policy I have. Or fuck everyone, I'm rich.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I can't even say nay to that. But and what's funny is that you have like a bunch of rich people trying to sell the poor people this bullshit idea that somehow Jamaica would be better if it decides to become a a republic, right? And I'm like, what's the fucking point in becoming a republic if you're still going to have the same problems? Becoming a republic will not change the problems. It will not fix the problems, right? Our independence, right, and us being a part of the Commonwealth has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the economic situation that the country is in.
Yeah.
Nothing. So I don't know if people are like thinking that that's going to offer some kind of economic reset or some shit like that by becoming a republic,
Right.
right?
I think
Because
they're hoping it gives them more control to then maybe institute the things that would, but it's not going to work like that.
no, it's not going to make any difference because
Yeah.
they have ultimate control over what the fuck they want to do in the first place. The queen or king or whatever, they don't interfere it's the same thing like Canada, right? The UK doesn't tell Canada what to do. Canada does whatever it wants to do. Yeah, they're a part of the Commonwealth, right? But they do whatever they want to do. Jamaica is the same situation, and so I argued with one of my friends about this, and I was like, "What's the difference between Canada and Jamaica?" Right? And and it's simple. It's how they are ran. Resources and how they are ran. What's the difference between the Cayman Islands and the UK? Even though, yes, technically they are a territory, but they have a shit ton of independence, can do whatever they want, right? They've just made better economic decisions with less resources.
Yeah, they became the bank of the wealthy. Like,
Yeah,
fuck this trade thing. We're gonna be the thing that the wealthy use to fuck everyone else over.
to fuck everyone else over. Exactly. So at least the Cayman Islands, right? Their government officials, like they'll get rich, right? But at least their people, right? They have like a dollar that's useful, and the country is not like economically screwed.
Yeah, there's only two ways to fix it, and that is a deliberate suffering for the better part of a century to recreate your economy from the ground up,
From the ground up.
or you just become the 51st state. Those are like your two options.
Pretty much. And it's funny too because I remember someone said that Jamaica should either become part of the U.S. or something like that. And I'm like, bro, if Puerto Rico has not become part of the U.S. Has not become a state, I don't see any fucking reason why they would want. Well, to be fair, Jamaica is in like a pretty good geological trading route or whatever.
Don't get us wrong. We are interested in every single island down there by the Gulf.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, every single one. That's our only economic weak point is that entryway to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, I do have that in mind, but I'm just saying like, in terms of like the locals and just how stubborn people are, right? Even if that idea was to be entertained, Jamaica would never be a state on its own, mainly because, one particular party or both parties would be afraid um, of how the people would vote because you know, they don't know Jamaicans' views on certain things. But Jamaica heavily leans more Republican than anything, believe it or not.
Well, no, I would believe it with the eat the cheese decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-identified right wing, more conservative people usually choose the cheese because we go, hey, the cheese is cheap,
hmm
and you get cheese. Right? They're like, yeah, cheap cheese, great.
Yep.
Free
Engage in a
market,
little bit of
fantastic.
insider trading. You know, you know the deal.
Yeah, it's the left wing governments that go, no, fuck you, we're going to give you the other thing you want.
Yep. But yeah, Jamaica heavily leans right. Um, for the most part.
On that
Probably.
note, I do gotta head out, so I am gonna go ahead and end this and let you guys finish backstage. Thank you though. This has been fun and interesting, and I really look forward to the next one. You guys come up with a date and a time, and I will do my best to make it work. But it probably won't be. Ooh, yeah, it probably won't be the 30th. Cool.
When's the 30th?
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, we can
Okay.
wait a couple weeks. No.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I might
Maybe.
could pull it off, but it might have to be just like a little bit later.
Fine with that too.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So on that note, you guys can continue backstage. And thank you, pretty shiny peoples, for coming. It has been great fun. Don't forget to smile and laugh and have bunches of fun and all that good stuff.